Chapter 255. Senior brother, have you eaten meat today? Yes, it's delicious. Little dragon fell into a deep sleep and no longer came to snatch the meat. The atmosphere in Iron Bone immediately became happy, and the disciples were all happy when they met and greeted each other. Of course, not everyone was happy because of the fire dragon's sleep. For example, Wuxia sat at the dining table and said while holding her chin, "Sect leader, when will little dragon wake up?" Jun Chengxiao ate a mouthful of food and said, "It should take 2 to 3 months." Wuxia said, "I heard that many special beasts can evolve through sleep. I really hope that little dragon can maintain its original state, otherwise it won't be cute." Jun Chengxiao almost spat out the food he was eating. "I burned so much money to let it grow up quickly so that it can guard the house. You want it to maintain its original state, what are you doing? Speaking of which, this girl actually knew about sleep evolution, how surprising." "Oh right, sect leader." Wuxia smiled and said, "Recently, I have been researching dishes that can increase strength value. Now that I have succeeded, do you want to try it?" Dishes that increase strength value? Jun Chengxiao was stunned. Wuxia said proudly, "This is something that I researched myself. After eating it, it can increase strength value for a certain period of time, and there are no side effects." "So powerful?" Jun Chengxiao was startled, and said, Come, let me try it." "Wait a moment, I'll go get it." Wuxia entered the kitchen, then walked over with the lunch box, and said, "I just made this morning. It's not cold yet, sect leader, eat it while it's hot." Opening the lunch box, the food inside was no different from usual. Jun Chengxiao couldn't help but question in his heart, food can also increase strength value, isn't this Taishan fantasy? The system said, the host is originally living in a fantasy world. That makes sense, I actually have nothing to say. Jun Chengxiao raised his chopsticks, picked up a piece of meat and placed it in his mouth, slowly chewing it, then he was dumbstruck. Fragrant but not fat, tender but not greasy. Oh my god! It was simply too delicious. Jun Chengxiao chewed again and again, his mood fluctuating along with the delicious food. At that moment, his soul seemed to have flown out of his body. At times, he seemed to be standing in the sky, at other times, he seemed to be standing on the peak of a mountain, and at other times, he seemed to be swimming freely in the ocean. Wasn't it a little too exaggerated to be able to eat until one's soul was floating? If you think it's too exaggerated, you can try Stephen Chow's movie Culinary God or watch China's Little Master. Jun Chengxiao lowered his head and began to gobble down the food. Although his actions looked inelegant, he had the highest respect for such delicacies. The only thing he could do was to eat it all. He couldn't afford to waste anything. As the delicious food continued to enter his stomach, a gush of heat energy erupted in his body, and his strength increased accordingly. Jun Chengxiao was shocked. Although the conversion of heat into power was very slow, it was a solid improvement. It's too magical. Taishan is a fantasy. The system couldn't help but exclaim. In the Falling Star continent, there were pills that could increase one's strength, but to increase it by a bowl of rice was extremely rare. In the end, Jun Chengxiao finished all the meat dishes in the box, including the soup, and stood up. Gotcha! He clenched his fists, full of strength. Wuxia blinked her big eyes and said, "Leader, how do you feel?" Jun Chengxiao said, "Crooked-rigged." Although he didn't understand the meaning of that sentence, judging from the leader's expression, he must be very satisfied. Wuxia smiled and said, "According to my speculation, this bowl of rice can increase one's strength by about 20%. That's about right." Jun Chengxiao didn't test it, but he roughly estimated that his strength had increased from 100,000 to 120,000. Eating a bowl of rice could increase his strength by 20,000. If he didn't experience it himself, it would be unbelievable. Beep. Beep. Jun Chengxiao said, "How long does this effect last?" Lu Wanshi held her chin and said, I've just researched it. It's still in the experimental stage, so I can't confirm the time. So it's a test. Wait a minute. Jun Changxiao's expression changed, and the corner of his mouth twitched. You're treating me as a lab rat. Hee hee. Lu Wanshi smiled mischievously and said, Leader is strong, so I naturally have to try it. Besides, it's just a meal, there won't be any problems. In this world, if someone could avoid punishment because they made a mistake, then there was only one kind. The lowly smile. Jun Changxiao patted her head and said, seeing that the food is good, I won't pursue it. However, just as he finished speaking, the strength that increased suddenly retracted back. His legs went soft, and he laid on the chair uncontrollably. Leader. Lu Wanshi said anxiously, what happened to you? Jun Changxiao said, I don't have any strength, and I'm dizzy. As he spoke, his eyes rolled back, and white foam came out of his mouth. This scared Lu Wanshi, and she hurriedly shouted, not good, leader is going to die. Leader Jun, who could still hold on for a while, heard the last sentence of the little girl, and directly laid on the table and fainted. What happened? What happened? Su Xiaomo was the first to rush over. When he saw Leader Jun, who had rolled his eyes and was foaming, he said in shock, was he burned by Little Dragon? That's not right. Isn't that little guy hibernating? Swoosh. At this moment, Li Qingyang rushed over. When he saw that Leader Jun's situation wasn't good, he immediately carried him and ran towards the medicine hall. Outside the medicine hall, all the disciples were waiting anxiously. Lu Wanshi sat on the stairs, and her head was buried between her legs. Bean-sized teardrops dripped down one by one, and her eyes were swollen from crying. Don't cry. Lu Qianqian, who was leaning on the door, said indifferently. Wu. Lu Wanshi lost control of her emotions and cried, Senior sister, it's all my fault, I let Leader Jun get sick from eating. Lu Qianqian said, Leader Jun's life is tough, and he can withstand the torment. He should be fine. If Leader Jun, who was in a coma, heard this, he would definitely open his eyes and faint again. Creak. After a while, the medicine hall's door was pushed open, and Elder Wei walked out and said, Leader Jun is fine, he just got food poisoning. Although he wasn't a doctor, he still had some medical skills after dealing with herbs all day long. Phew. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Elder Wei said, he will be fine after resting for 2 to 3 months. Everyone almost fell over. My Elder Wei, my Hall Master Wei. Resting for 2 to 3 months, and you call it fine? Little girl Lu. Elder Wei said, did you add burdock, clove, and green powder into the food? Lu Wanshi stopped crying and said in surprise, Elder Wei, how did you know? Elder Wei shook his head and said, these 3 herbs can be used as seasoning. It's fine if you put them alone, but when they are added together, they will produce poison. If it's mild, you will feel weak and foaming at the mouth like Leader Jun, but if it's severe, it will be life-threatening. Ah! Lu Wanshi opened her mouth. Elder Wei said, from tomorrow onwards, I will teach you how to identify herbs and their effects, so you won't get food poisoning if you mix them randomly. That's good. Everyone agreed. Leader Jun's life is tough, and he can withstand the torment, but we can't. If Junior Marshal Sister Lu used herbs as seasoning and created a fatal poison, then we will really die. If the unconscious Jun Changxiao knew what his disciples were thinking, he would definitely take out a knife and cut himself to let them know what it meant to have a weak life and not be able to withstand the torment. Lu Wanshi said seriously. Although she was a gold-ranked chef, she wasn't a pharmacist. When developing food that could increase one's strength, they would often consider the effects and neglect the toxicity caused by mixing herbs. Thus, she had to study well. Then, here comes the question. When Leader Jun was eating, his soul would fly up and down, and then run through the sea. Was the food too delicious, or was it a sign of food poisoning? Chapter 256. Although the food that Lu Wanche researched could increase combat strength, due to the wrong combination of ingredients, it produced poison that poisoned sect leader Jun. Of course. Elder Wei said that it would take 2 to 3 months to recover, but that was only for normal people. Jun Changshao, who had gone through all sorts of body tempering, only needed to rest for 2 to 3 days to recover. What did that mean? That's right, his life was tough and he could take it. Sect leader. In the study room, Lu Wanche was like a child who had made a mistake, lowering her head and blaming herself. Sorry, I was wrong, I am willing to accept the punishment. How could Jun Changshao bear to punish this cute lowly? Furthermore, researching the strength-increasing food had good intentions, but there was a mistake in the process. Learn from Elder Wei properly, that is your punishment, Jun Changshao said. If it were any of the other disciples, they might have lost their lives. He had to let the little girl properly understand the medicinal herbs. Lu Wanche knew that this was not a punishment, so she told herself that she had to work hard to learn about herbs. Jun Changshao said, don't waste the strength-increasing food, continue researching. Although the strength-increasing food could not be compared to the strength-increasing talisman, it did not cost contribution points, which was its biggest advantage. She had to continue researching. Sect leader. Lu Wanche said, I am afraid that there will be more problems. Jun Changshao rested his arms on the table and rubbed his chin with his fingers. He began to preach, you can't choose to give up just because of one failure. Only by continuously trying can you truly succeed. I understand. With the support of the sect leader, Lu Wanche once again built up her confidence. Furthermore, she had a higher chance of creating a safe and harmless strength-increasing food. As Elder Wei's understanding of herbs was too professional, in just one day, she had a complete understanding of many herbs. What are you waiting for? Go and learn. Oh. Lu Wanche hurried to the herb garden to find Yao Lao. Jun Changshao held his chin and muttered, to be able to combine normal herbs and ingredients to create a strength-increasing food, this little girl is not simple. Where did he come from? Jun Changshao's understanding of Lu Wanche was limited to her being chased by a group of villains in Azure Sun City before he saved her. No. There was also an understanding. Lu Qianqian had once said that the Ouyang family of the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City had done a lot of research on food and could make dishes that could improve martial arts. Could it be that Dudu is a direct descendant of the Ouyang family of the Heavenly Mandate Royal City? Jun Changshao murmured. If that was the case, she would not be called Lu Wanche, but Ouyang XX. AI. Jun Changshao sighed and said, none of my disciples seem to be simple. As the sect master, they actually don't know anything. For example, Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingqian. In fact, he could have sent people to the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City to investigate, and they would have more or less gained something, but he had never thought of doing so. In Sect Master Jun's view, no matter what stories the disciples had or what secrets they had, since they had entered the Iron Bone clan, they were disciples of the Iron Bone clan. As long as they were loyal to the clan, all he could do was provide a safe haven for them to become stronger without distraction. It was really hard to find such a sect master in the Falling Star continent. But Iron Bone might be a little unsafe. Because Heung County had completely exploded. The patriarch of the sixth-rate Chishan sect had not returned to the clan for almost half a month after the grand competition of the sects. Many higher-ups of the clan had also disappeared with Patriarch Liao. This was not normal. There must be something fishy about this. I heard that after the grand competition of the sects, many forces could not accept that an eighth-rate disciple from an outer county won the championship, so they sent people to chase after him. Patriarch Liao and the higher-ups of the various clans have not returned yet. Could it be that they have entered Azure Sun County? Impossible. According to the news, the higher-ups of the various clans had already stopped the Iron Bone disciples in Heian County. Although that Xiao Ziji is not bad, he is still a martial disciple. Facing a Wuzong like Patriarch Liao, he would not be able to fight back. Since that is the case, why hasn't he returned after half a month? Could it be that an accident happened? Don't tell me that the Iron Bone disciples killed Patriarch Liao and the others instead? Qishan Sect's great elder has temporarily taken over the clan's affairs. He has already organized a large group of disciples to go down the mountain to search. The other clans have also used their own power and connections. I believe there will be news soon. A sixth-rate patriarch had not returned and the higher-ups of the various clans were nowhere to be found. This immediately became a hot topic in Heian County. But no matter how much discussion there was, it was hard to imagine that he had died in the hands of Iron Bone. Although Jun Changshao had destroyed the corpses, there was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. If the cultivators of the various clans continued to investigate, there would be a day when they would be exposed. Naturally, he would have thought of this and made preparations early on. While the various clans of Heian County were searching in full swing, he ordered the members of the Drizzle Hall to start spreading rumors. What rumors? Half a month ago, a strange phenomenon occurred in a mountain forest in Heian County. It was suspected that a treasure had appeared. Once this news was spread, it instantly spread like wildfire in Heian County. It even overshadowed the news of the disappearance of Patriarch Liao and the others. In a world where martial arts were respected, it was normal for strange phenomena, the appearance of a treasure, or the discovery of a cave or tomb left behind by an almighty person. When such things happened, cultivators would rush like ducks to the point that they would not hesitate to lose their lives. If one wanted to become a powerful cultivator, hard work was indispensable. Fortuitous encounters were even more indispensable. Many cultivators with dreams, in order to obtain various fortuitous encounters, stood on cliffs and bravely jumped off, but in the end, they ended up with their bodies crushed. But then again, what was the purpose of Jun Changshao creating this rumor? It must be to let the people of Heian County think that the disappearance of Patriarch Liao and the others was related to the appearance of a treasure. As expected, as the news spread, the cultivators started to guess that the patriarch of Qishan Sect and the higher-ups of the various clans had not returned. Could it be that they had gone to look for the treasure? I heard that the treasure appeared in a valley. The ground cracked, revealing a cave entrance, and then disappeared after a few hours. If that is the case, Patriarch Liao and the others must have found the cave entrance and went in to look for the treasure. That is why they have not returned yet. That is most likely the case. The cultivators of Heian County were led astray by the rumors spread by Jun Changshao. Some people would ask, what about their intelligence? How could they believe a random rumor as the truth? Sorry. Since Jun Changshao was playing this trick, he would definitely make the rumor seem like the truth. Otherwise, how could he fool people? Moreover, he did not expect to rely on the appearance of the treasure to deceive everyone. He only hoped that the clans of Heian County would investigate him later and buy time for Changqiang. After Qishan Sect and the other clans heard the rumors, although they were skeptical, they still put their attention on the treasure and started to search the mountains and valleys. There was no other way. Without a thorough investigation, who would have thought that an eighth-rate sect would come all the way here, kill Patriarch Liao and the others, and then return so casually? Chapter 257. Heian County was in an uproar because of the appearance of the treasure. It would be difficult for Qishan Sect and the other sects to find Iron Bone in a short period of time. Whether it was a few months or a few years, it would undoubtedly buy Jun Changshao a lot of time to become stronger. At that time, even if they killed their way over, they would have nothing to fear. In order to survive in this cruel world, one must have strength and tricks. Otherwise, how would one be able to survive? After spreading the rumors, Jun Changshao completed a hidden mission. It was also related to an idiom called rumors and received 100 contribution points. How wonderful! Lingyang County was also bustling with activity. The news that the AI family had set up the auction in Lingyang County spread and caused a huge commotion. The healing pill and shaping pill had become famous after several auctions. When the various sects found out about the auction time, they had already begun to prepare. Especially for the shaping pill. Neither Heian County nor Lingyang County had anything to do with Jun Changshao. He was in charge of the sect and continued to cultivate and nurture disciples. Little Long Long was still asleep and no one knew when it would wake up. Iron Bone disciples hoped that the little guy would sleep a little longer. Otherwise, they would have no meat to eat. Who? After training in the Tower of Experience for 4 hours, Jun Changshao returned to his residence with a sore body and opened the system shop. I have 835 contribution points now. Why don't I refresh the points? As soon as this thought arose, he couldn't suppress his OCD and opened the system store. The old items were replaced by new ones. After looking at the first few rows, sect leader Jun felt a chill in his heart. After looking at the last few rows, he almost jumped up in excitement. High-grade low-tier movement technique cloud treading steps. Middle-grade high-tier mental cultivation technique sound transmission technique. There was also a pill formula middle-grade healing pill. The cloud treading steps was a movement technique created by an unknown expert. When comprehended to the extreme, one could leap dozens of feet. It was an essential skill for high-altitude parkour. The spirit sound technique was also very powerful. After cultivating it, one could establish a connection with the sect's disciples. It wasn't difficult to send a message from 1,000 miles away. The most explosive item was the medium-grade healing pill, which was the upgraded version of the beginner-grade healing pill. It could quickly heal an injured martial master or Wuzong-grade martial artist. When Jun Changshao finished reading the introductions one by one, he patted his face and said, "Am I dreaming?" Under the influence of OCD, 3 items related to martial arts were refreshed at once. This was absolutely like a dream. Hit with all your might. If it hurts, it won't be a dream, the system said. Fuck off. Jun Changshao wouldn't really hit him. Instead, he put his hands on his hips and laughed, "Ha ha ha, I've finally escaped from the European Union. 2 cultivation techniques and 1 pill formula. Any one of them would have been a huge profit. Who would have thought that he would get them all at once?" His luck was really off the charts. The system said, it should be related to increasing your luck by 1 point. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. 0 points turned into 1 point, and 3 points were spawned at once. No matter how he looked at it, it was impossible. Of course. Sect leader Jun calmed down and looked at the prices one by one. He frowned because the prices were not cheap. Cloud steps 100 contribution points. Sound transmission technique 200 contribution points. Middle grade healing pill 500 contribution points. There were still 825 points left. If he bought them all, then there would only be a pitiful 25 points left. Being trapped in the stone golem's territory, if he had the cloud steps, he would have directly jumped out. The sound transmission technique could allow disciples to communicate with each other, especially in terms of information transmission. He definitely had to buy it. The middle-grade healing pill could save Wu Shi and Wuzong. Even if the price was 1,000 points, he wouldn't hesitate to buy it. So, take them all. Ding! Host has spent 100 contribution points and obtained Cloud Steps X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Host has spent 200 contribution points and obtained Sound Transmission Technique X1. Ding! Host has spent 500 contribution points and obtained Middle Grade Healing Pill Formula X1. Ding! Sect Contribution Points, 251000. After buying all 3 items, the system automatically matched the cloud steps and the sound transmission technique to the Sect's cultivation technique. The pill formula was also automatically matched to the alchemy pavilion. Now that he had 2 cultivation techniques, he definitely had to copy them. Jun Changshao spent 20 points and copied 1,000 books each. In the end, he was only left with 5 contribution points. This was definitely the lowest level left after leveling up to the 2nd level of the sect. I don't feel safe at all. Jun Changshao muttered, then opened the alchemy pavilion and clicked on the middle grade healing pill. Whoosh! The refining window popped up. The middle grade healing pill required 8 types of medicinal herbs. Because there were no materials, all of them were displayed as 0. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin, and said, "Looks like I have to make a trip to the AI family's medicinal shop." As he spoke, he took out the cloud steps and flipped through it. A high-grade movement technique was definitely stronger than the ghost steps. Furthermore, it had inherited the advantage of being easy to learn from the shop's cultivation technique. Jun Changshao only needed to follow the chants and steps for an hour before he had a preliminary understanding. The reason why he could learn so quickly was definitely related to the top-grade spirit root. Many disciples find it difficult to master the ghost steps. I can make them all change to the cloud steps. Jun Changshao muttered. He took out the sound transmission technique again. This was a mental cultivation technique. To be precise, it was a mental cultivation technique. After cultivating it successfully, one could establish a mental connection with martial artists who cultivated this technique and transmit their voices over a long distance. To put it bluntly, it was equipped with an invisible phone. As long as one was within a certain distance, signal, one could communicate with others instantly. It was a pity that there was no QQ or WeChat function. He could not send text messages, nor could he compete in pictures. It was a pity. Of course. The understanding of the sound transmission technique determined the communication distance. To be able to reach the level of sound transmission technique from 1,000 miles away, one would probably have to cultivate it to the extreme. If the members of the Drizzle Hall learn this cultivation technique, they will definitely feel great. Jun Changshao grinned. 2 cultivation techniques, a pill formula, and a whim refresh. The harvest was quite huge. Let's cultivate the cloud steps first. Jun Changshao sat down cross-legged and calmed his excited mood. Then, he began a night of comprehension. The next day, early morning. The disciples walked out of the room and headed to the martial arts practice field in the outer court one after another. However, just as they gathered, someone shouted, "Look, the sect leader is up there." Up there? Everyone looked up and saw the sect leader standing on top of the main hall. The breeze blew, causing the corners of his clothes to sway. Why was the sect leader standing up there early in the morning? Could it be that he was cultivating his mind by looking at the scenery? Shush! At this moment, Jun Changshao tipped his toes and flew more than 10 feet high like a swallow. He then landed on the roof of the side building. This. Everyone was dumbfounded. The main hall and the side building were at least 20 feet apart. Not only did the sect leader jump over, but he also jumped so high that it felt as though he was flying. Shush! 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 Jun Changshao swung his knee and ran along the roof of the side building in large strides. He jumped and leaped, looking very much like parkour. The disciples were more and more shocked as they watched. Although the sect leader's speed was not very fast, his movements were natural and unrestrained. It felt as though he was strolling in the clouds. Ta! Jun Changshao ran one round and landed on the roof of the training room. He exerted a little force with his right leg and not only did he jump, but he also flew toward the roof of the main hall. SSS. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The distance between the training room and the main hall was at least 50 feet. There was also an entrance to the inner court in between. If the sect leader wanted to jump over, it would be no different from flying over. Shush! Jun Changshao, who was flying, had his hands behind his back. The breeze blew his black hair away, revealing his handsome face. It was a perfect example of what it meant to be coquettish. Sect leader, boom! Aya! He did not fly over and directly hit the pillar of the main hall. Chapter 258. Jun Changshao only cultivated for one night. Although he couldn't jump from the training room to the main hall, it was enough to show that the cloud-traversing steps bought from the store was much stronger than the ghost-traversing steps. Sect leader must be using a movement technique. He's so cool. It feels like he's flying. After the morning exercise, the disciples discussed the scene of their sect leader running on the roof of the outer courtyard. Their eyes were full of admiration and envy. There was no need to be envious. After sect leader Jun's face stopped hurting, he walked out of the main hall and distributed the cloud-traversing steps and the sound transmission technique. The disciples who received the two techniques were all excited. "Thank you, sect leader." Everyone cheered in unison. At this point, Iron Bone had an additional movement technique and a spiritual technique. It could be said that it was more comprehensive. As a technique from the store, as long as the disciples learned it, they would naturally be restricted. Whether they betrayed or were expelled, they would be stripped of all memories. It was this restriction that allowed Jun Changshao to copy it without restraint and distribute it to the disciples unconditionally. Yi Xingchen also received a technique. He opened the cloud-traversing steps and saw that it was only a low-level high-grade technique. Disdain appeared between his brows. After a while, he said in surprise, "This movement technique is even stronger than the crossing dragon traversing steps that I cultivated." Whether the technique was good or not, it was terrible to compare. Our Lord Night Monarch came to a conclusion from the incantation and the steps. As for the sound transmission technique, it was even more shocking. After entering the Martial King realm, one would condense spiritual thoughts and be able to transmit sound at the soul level. But to do it in advance in the form of a technique was a little scary. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Night Emperor was once a martial emperor, so after knowing the effect of the sound transmission technique, he was even more shocked than the other disciples. Calm down and cultivate. Because the sect master had issued two cultivation methods, the disciples of the Iron Bone sect temporarily gave up on going to the training tower and focused all their attention on cultivating their martial arts. A few days later, pulling up the camera and looking down, one could see the disciples using the cloud-traversing steps and jumping around on the roof of the outer courtyard. Su Xiaomua and Li Fei, who were extremely talented in movement techniques, jumped from the training room to the main hall after 3 to 5 days of comprehension. Li Tian also jumped over, but he did not succeed. He screamed miserably as he crashed into the pillar of the main hall and fell down. After making a choice, the members of Drizzle Hall gave up on ghost treading steps and began to cultivate cloud treading steps. Sect leader Li Luoqiu smiled and said, "This movement technique of yours is completely tailor-made for my Drizzle Hall. What about the sound transmission technique?" Jun Changshao asked. "That's true." Li Luoqiu stood on a rock at the back of the mountain and murmured in his heart. She had already mastered the sound transmission technique. Although she had just started, she was able to communicate with Jun Changshao in the main hall. It was only a few hundred feet away. As one's comprehension deepened, the distance between them would definitely increase. At that time, one would be standing in the sect, while the other would be standing in the Green Sun City, and they would be able to communicate spiritually. Cloud treading steps, sound transmission technique. To the members of Drizzle Hall, these two martial arts were definitely tailor-made for them. In the future, they would be able to move faster, and it would be easier for them to communicate with each other. He had also experienced the effect of the sound transmission technique in his daily life. For example, senior brother, let's go to the canteen for a meal. Wait a minute, I'm changing my clothes. Two disciples, one in the outer yard and the other in the inner yard, were communicating through voice transmission. Junior brother Yi, do you want to go to the training pagoda together? Xiao Ziji was also communicating with Yi Xingqian through the sound transmission technique. After a long while, Lord Knight Emperor replied, yes. Sect leader, senior brother, junior brother, it's time to eat. Lu Wanshi could communicate spiritually with everyone. There was no need for her to stand at the door and shout every day. The sound transmission technique made it more convenient for the Iron Bone disciples to communicate with each other on a daily basis. Get the members of Drizzle Hall to cultivate and strive to be able to communicate with each other via voice transmission in any area of the Green Sun County, Jun Changshao said. The true value of the sound transmission technique could only be perfectly reflected in the transmission of information. Li Luoqiu said, we should be able to do it in about a month. Okay. Jun Changshao nodded. He then handed over the sect affairs to her and set off for Huyang City. Shush! 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 Using the cloud-treading steps, sect leader Jun dashed through the mountains. Occasionally, he would jump up from a towering tree and slant it to another tree several tens of zhang away. 20 minutes later. Jun Changshao stopped at the entrance of Huyang City. In the past, it would take 30 to 40 minutes to reach Huyang City by relying on the ghost-treading steps. One had to know. Relying on the insight talisman, Jun Changxiao's understanding of the ghost-treading steps was at its peak. He had only cultivated the cloud-treading steps for 4 to 5 days. He was still far from reaching its peak. AI Family's medicine shop. AI Shanka hurried over and cupped his hands, saying, Sect leader Jun has come to visit. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Since the family head had gone to Lingyang County, he was temporarily in charge of the AI family's affairs. Every time he saw Jun Changshao, AI Shanka would sigh in his heart. This was because before they established a cooperative relationship, they had a conflict. He often pondered. If he had lost to him at that time and was unwilling to accept it, he would have brought his family members to find trouble with him. If that had escalated the conflict, what would the situation be now? Thinking about the ending of the Spirit Spring sect and the crushing defeat of the vast Qi sect. The conclusion that AI Shanka came to was that the family would either suffer a great loss, or be destroyed. Elder AI. Jun Changshao handed over a list of medicinal ingredients and said, do you have the ingredients on this list in stock? AI Shanka took it, lowered his head and looked at it carefully. He said solemnly, Sect leader Jun, these 8 medicinal ingredients are all high-grade medicinal ingredients. The price is not cheap. Money is not a problem. Jun Changshao said. AI Shanka said, Sect leader Jun, please wait a moment. I will let shopkeeper Ma see how many medicinal ingredients we have in the warehouse. 8 medicinal ingredients for 1 set. Understood. Not long after. AI Shanka returned and said, after counting, our AI family can only gather 20 sets of these 8 medicinal ingredients for the time being. Although 20 sets were few, it was better than nothing. Jun Changshao said, how much? 20 sets of medicinal ingredients will cost 200,000 taels. AI Shanka said. Jun Changshao was stunned, so expensive? A set of medicinal ingredients for a low-grade healing pill was only a few hundred taels. A set of medicinal ingredients for a mid-grade healing pill was 10,000 taels. The difference was too big. The system said, how can a medicinal pill for a meridian opening martial disciple be compared to a medicinal pill for a martial master Wuzong? It cannot be compared. Isn't it right that it is so expensive? It made a lot of sense. Jun Changshao said, Elder AI, Jun wants all 20 sets of medicinal ingredients. Let's sign the contract. Okay. They drew up the contract and signed it. Goodbye. After getting what he wanted, Jun Changshao returned to the sect. What made him speechless was that he had been refining mid-grade healing pills since he left Huyang City. It was not until the next day that he finished refining all 20 pills. It took so long to refine from low-grade to mid-grade. Taking out the large healing pill, Jun Changshao muttered, if this thing were to be sold in the market, it would be worth at least 3 to 5 million. Chapter 259. In the Falling Star continent, the chances of high-level cultivators being injured were much higher than low-level cultivators. Why? Because low-level cultivators were cautious and kept a low profile when they went out. High-level cultivators were arrogant and were more likely to cause trouble or take risks. Therefore, the middle-grade healing pills were targeted at martial masters and wuzong. Although they were not as popular as Meridian Opening and Martial Disciples, they were definitely easier to sell. If it wasn't for the long journey, Sect leader Jun might have given a few pills to the AI family head so that he could auction them off. The cultivation technique was distributed and the pills were refined. Another matter was put on the agenda. That was to recruit disciples. It was strange. Since the last recruitment of 500 disciples, no one had signed up. This made Jun Changshao depressed. I've already stepped on the vast Qi sect. Shouldn't the youths of Azure Sun County flock to me? Why are they so short-sighted? It wasn't that the people of Azure Sun County were short-sighted. After the recruitment of the 100 sects, most of the suitable youths had already joined the sect. The remaining few had very poor aptitudes and didn't even have low-grade spiritual roots. Moreover, sect leader Jun's advertisement was only in Azure Sun City and Huyang City. In the other 6 cities, even if there were parents who wanted to send their children to Iron Bone, they were afraid of the vast Qi sect and the 100 sect alliance. Currently, there were very few youths in Azure Sun County who were suitable to join the sect. Because of the many fears, it would be very difficult to recruit disciples. No. Jun Changshao said, we have to recruit as soon as possible. Even if we don't start the sect's mission, we can at least get a few hundred contribution points. With only 5 contribution points, he didn't dare to open the Spirit Array and the Sect Protection Array because they would be burned out in 2 days. After some planning, sect leader Jun decided that he couldn't wait for others to sign up. He had to take the initiative and go to the various cities to advertise. There were 8 cities in Azure Sun County. The other 6 cities had to be visited one by one, so he would go to Liang City first. I've sinned. Jun Changshao said, you go with me. Yes. Xiao Ziji obeyed. If it had been in the past, he might have felt conflicted about going to Liang City. However, now that his cultivation had risen and the fallen geniuses had regained their former glory, he naturally wouldn't mind. Jun Changshao selected a few more disciples. Most of them were from the outer sect. Their aptitudes were also very ordinary, but their strength was at the level of 3rd to 5th grade martial disciple. He wanted to tell the world that if they joined the Iron Bone sect, even if they didn't have outstanding aptitude, they could still become stronger under the sect's guidance. Liang City. Jun Changshao stood at the city gate for the second time. Behind him were 20 to 30 disciples. Each of them had their heads held high and their chests puffed out, emitting an unyielding aura. It's Iron Bone. Why are they here again? The warriors coming in and out discussed in low voices. Participating in the Great Intersect Tournament, there were many people who mocked and looked down on Iron Bone. However, with the great things that Iron Bone's sect had done recently, it had long turned into reverence. It's not. Walking on the spacious streets of the city, the warriors all made way in advance. Jun Changshao led his disciples straight along the main street and finally stopped in front of the city lord's residence. He cupped his hands and said, Iron Bone sect leader, Jun Changshao, is here to visit City Lord Ao. When the city lord's residence guard heard this, he hurriedly went in to report. Not long after, City Lord Ao, whose face was full of whiskers, walked out and cupped his hands with a smile. "Sect leader Jun, please come in." The warriors on the street were dumbfounded. Although Ironbone's sect was in the limelight recently, it was still an eighth-rate sect. How could they make City Lord Ao personally come out to welcome them? Jun Changshao cupped his hands and led his disciples into the city lord's residence under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Great Elder. The Xiao family's third elder walked into the hall from outside and said rather angrily, "Ironbone's sect leader has brought his disciples to Liang City." The great elder who was drinking tea suddenly had a gloomy expression and said, "Is that trash here yet?" "He's here," the third elder said. "Gotcha." The great elder crushed the teacup and his eyes were half filled with anger and half filled with killing intent. In the sect competition, Xiao Ziji won the championship and gave the Xiao family a tight slap in the face. He couldn't take this lying down and sent assassins to assassinate him outside the city. Although they failed in the end, at least they didn't expose their identities. If the Xiao family knew that the family had suffered a great calamity some time ago and that it was all because of sect leader Jun's arrangements, they would know whether their identities were exposed or not. "What are they here for?" the great elder asked coldly. The third elder said, "To visit City Lord Ao." "Humph," the great elder sneered and said, "City Lord Ao has a good relationship with Qin Haoren. Ironbone's sect has a grudge with him. Isn't visiting them just asking for a snub?" The third elder paused and said, "City Lord Ao personally went out to welcome that Jun Changshao." "What?" The great elder's eyes widened. City Lord Ao liked to put on airs. Even when the Xiao family head went to visit him personally, he never came out to welcome him. What right did an eighth-rate sect have to make a city lord personally welcome them? Because they were hostile towards Xiao Ziji, even Iron Bone was hostile towards them. They completely ignored the fact that such an eighth-rate sect could defeat the vast Qi sect. Just ask. Could the Xiao family do it? They couldn't. In Azure Sun County, other than the Five Streams Green Mountain sect, no one else could do it. So, what was wrong with a city lord personally coming out to welcome such a sect? Not only did City Lord Ao personally welcome them, he even treated them as guests of honor in the hall. He was also very enthusiastic when talking with them. Jun Changshao himself was a little dumbfounded. Could it be that I'm already at the level where the city lord has to come and curry favor with me? Sending disciples to participate in the sect competitions in Pingyang County, Heian County, and Huayin County and winning all of them. Ironbone's sect has become stronger under sect leader Jun's management. City Lord Ao smiled. So that was the case. No wonder he was so enthusiastic. He had received the news. Not only City Lord Ao, but the city lords of the other 7 cities also received the news. At first, when they found out that Iron Bone's disciple, Yixingchen, won the championship in Pingyang County, they were just stunned. They only sent one disciple to win the sect competition in an 8th-rate county. This was indeed very surprising. One of the city lords even wondered if all the second-rate disciples in Pingyang County were sent over and not the elite disciples. After that, the news of Li Qingyang winning the martial arts competition in Huayin County spread. All the city lords were in a daze. That was a county with many evil sections. In every martial arts competition, many participants would die. Iron Bone's disciple could win the championship. It's okay, it's okay. They could still control their emotions. In the end, when Xiao Ziji won the championship in Heian County, all the city lords' eyes almost popped out of their sockets. 2 8th-rate counties sect competitions and a martial arts competition with many evil sections. Iron Bone sent 3 disciples to participate in the competition and won 3 championships. This was absolutely shocking. The competition that Su Xiaoma and Li Fei participated in was rather far away, so the news had not reached them yet. Otherwise, the city lords of Qingyang County would probably have their eyeballs popped out. City Lord AO. Jun Changshao went back to the topic. Jun is here this time to recruit disciples in your city. Please allow me. Chapter 260. So you want to recruit disciples in my city? City Lord AO said, of course you can, but I want to make it clear that Liyang City and Alliance Master Qin have a verbal agreement. The youths in the city can only join the sects under the 100 Sect Alliance. Is that so? Jun Changshao raised his eyebrows. Qin Haoran actually dared to monopolize Liyang City. How could the sects that did not join the alliance play? The other cities also had verbal agreements. In short, as long as the youths reached the age of martial arts, they had to join the 100 Sect Alliance. Not joining? Sure, wait for the 100 Sect Alliance to recruit them, they could join other sections. In the end, they still joined the 100 Sect Alliance, just in a different city. This was also why the new sects racked their brains to join the 100 Sect Alliance, because once they joined, they would have the right to recruit disciples. Back then, sect leader Wang had to treat them to a meal to get in and become a member of the alliance. Otherwise, they would not have the right to join the 100 Sect Alliance's recruitment. City Lord AO. Jun Changshao said, what if I, Iron Bone, insist on recruiting disciples in Liyang City? It's not impossible. City Lord AO said, but sect leader Jun might be boycotted by the 100 Sect Alliance, they might come looking for trouble. If it was in the past, he would definitely not allow Iron Bone, who did not join the 100 Sect Alliance, to recruit disciples in the city, because it would offend Alliance Master Qin. But now, his mentality had changed. 3 disciples had won 3 championships. As long as one had a normal IQ, they would understand that although Iron Bone was an 8th-rate sect, their strength and potential were huge. Offending a rising sect because of Qin Haoran was definitely not a wise move. Furthermore, it was just a verbal agreement. If the Iron Bone sect's sect leader wanted to recruit disciples in the city, he couldn't just chase them away. Not letting them recruit? Sure, the 100 Sect Alliance can chase them away. City Lord AO's meaning was, you can settle your own matters, I will turn a blind eye and not offend anyone. Jun Changshao naturally understood his meaning and cupped his hands. Today, I, Iron Bone, will be recruiting disciples in Liyang City. If the 100 Sect Alliance dares to cause trouble, it will be between me and them. City Lord AO symbolically showed a troubled expression. In the square outside the great intersect tournament, the Iron Bone sect's front was built. The disciples scattered across the streets and handed out recruitment flyers to everyone they saw. Soon, the entire Liyang City knew about it. Join the Iron Bone clan and create a dream together. Gathering the world's talents, recruiting virtuous and capable people, Iron Bone upright sect, you are trustworthy. The simple recruitment words written on the flyer deeply stimulated many parents and martial cultivators, and they had the impulse to bring their own children to sign up. City Lord AO and Alliance Chief Qin have an agreement that all the youths in the city who are of a suitable age to practice martial arts must be given priority to join the 100 Sect Alliance. Isn't Iron Bone trying to pick a fight by openly recruiting disciples here? Speaking of which, it is strange. Why would City Lord AO agree? In my opinion, this kind of disciple recruitment is a matter between sections. City Lord AO doesn't want to get involved, so he chose to stay out of it. If the people from the 100 Sect Alliance knew about this, they would definitely not sit still. Many warriors were discussing in the city and began to predict that there would be a good show to watch soon. Sure enough. The Iron Bone sect had just released the recruitment news, and in less than 4 hours, dozens of big and small sects in the area of Liyang City had gathered and were rushing over. Jun Changshao. The patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School coldly shouted, in Liyang City, Iron Bone is not qualified to recruit disciples. Jun Changshao put his feet on the registration table and leaned back in his chair. He crossed his arms and smiled, why? Because, Just as he said these two words, the patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School subconsciously took 2 steps back because the iron-boned disciples behind the patriarch were glaring at him. During the 100 Sect recruitment, Jun Changshao put his face between the Long Blade School and the Tiger's Howl School, causing the disciples of the 2 schools to be dissatisfied. They surrounded him and glared at him fiercely. At that time, the iron bone was very weak and only had 1 disciple, Lu Qianqian. They were ridiculed and looked down upon by the world, and some even treated as heir. Today, in the Azure Sun County, aside from the Green Mountain School, which force dared to face them alone? No one dared to go alone, so they could only form groups. You Iron Bone are so powerful, but do you dare to oppose the entire Azure Sun County? Jun Changshao. A sect elder angrily shouted, since you left the alliance, you should abide by the rules of the underworld and not recruit disciples in the Azure Sun County. Normally, they wouldn't provoke the Iron Bone, but recruiting disciples in their own territory was something they couldn't tolerate. Why? Because if the Iron Bone were to recruit disciples, where would their own sect and the 100 Sect Alliance's face be? This was a matter of principle and face. Even if they knew that the other party could wrestle with the Haoqi sect, they still had to unite against the outsiders. Jun Changshao put down his legs and crossed his arms as he smiled, whoever is stronger has the right to speak, isn't this the rule of the underworld? There was nothing wrong with these words. The Haoqi sect and the 100 Sect Alliance were strong, so the rules of the underworld were set by them. Since Jun Changshao came to Azure Sun City to recruit disciples, he wanted to break the rules set by them and establish his own. He left the 100 Sect Alliance because he didn't want to be associated with a bunch of trash and also because he wanted freedom. Going down the mountain to recruit disciples meant that he, the Iron Bone, wanted to compete with the world. Everyone. Jun Changshao glanced at the various sect elders and said indifferently, I want to recruit disciples in Azure Sun City. If anyone is unhappy, you can declare war. I, the Iron Bone, will not reject anyone. The words I don't reject anyone who comes to me fully displayed the arrogance and domineering aura of a sect master. Xiao Ziji and the rest cooperated with the sect leader. They circulated the spiritual energy in their bodies and gathered it around their bodies, instantly creating an extremely powerful aura. In the past, the Iron Bone only had 1 disciple. Now, the Iron Bone had a group of monstrous disciples. They were no longer an unrated sect that anyone could spit on and trample on casually. You're unhappy? Then come and fight. The surrounding martial artists saw how the Iron Bone was not afraid in the face of so many sect elders and immediately prostrated themselves in admiration. In Azure Sun County, the 100 Sect Alliance had the absolute right to speak. They never thought that there would be a day when a sect dared to openly challenge them. Was the world going to change? Seeing how arrogant the Iron Bone was, the anger in the eyes of the various sect elders became even more intense. An 8th-rate sect elder who was so angry that his intelligence plummeted said angrily, I, Chui, would like to experience sect leader Jun's skills. Sorry. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, you're too weak. I don't want to fight. I've sinned. Waving his hand, he said, you can exchange a few moves with this sect elder. Don't be too ruthless in case someone dies. Yes. Xiao Ziji walked out and pointed to the fighting stage at the side, saying, Elder, please. Chapter 261. Letting his disciple fight with him and telling him not to be too ruthless, this was blatantly looking down on him. Golden Dragon Gate's Gate Master Chui angrily said, Jun Changshao, you, don't talk nonsense. Jun Changshao interrupted, defeat my disciple and I will immediately return to the Iron Bone sect and never go down the mountain to recruit disciples again. The patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School came over and whispered, Gate Master Chui, since this guy is so arrogant, why not go up and fight with his disciple for the 100 Sect Alliance? Damn! You're just standing there and talking. I, as a Gate Master, fighting with a disciple of a sect, even if I win, it's not honorable. Gate Master Cui was not afraid of Xiao Ziji, but because of his identity, what was the point of fighting with him? For the 100 Sect Alliance, Gate Master Cui, please go up. That guy is too arrogant, teach his disciple a lesson and vent our anger. With so many people watching, can Gate Master Cui endure? The elders of the various sects tried to persuade him. Humans were afraid of raising their heads. Gate Master Cui could not take it anymore and compromised. Fine, this Cui will experience the strength of the champion of the Great Sect competition. The words champion of the Great Sect competition were especially loud. This was to tell the surrounding cultivators that the opponent was not an ordinary disciple and that they should not think that they were bullying the weak. Please. Gate Master Cui and Xiao Ziji stood on the stage. A gate master and a disciple with such a huge disparity in status was rarely seen, so everyone started to talk about it. I heard that Gate Master Cui became a third-grade martial master a while ago. Although Xiao Ziji is the champion, he will not be able to contend against him. If Gate Master Jun can fight with Alliance Master Qin, why doesn't he go up himself? If he loses, he will return to the sect and not go down the mountain to recruit disciples. How confident is he in his disciple? Ping! 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 On the stage, the two had already begun to fight. The cultivators who were discussing looked over and their gazes gradually became sluggish, understanding why Gate Master Jun did not go up. It was because a disciple of the sect was competent enough. After the battle started, a pair of fists crazily pounded on Gate Master Cui, forcing him to defend and retreat. Ping! Not long after, the dull sound of a fist could be heard. Sect Master Cui flew out of the room and slammed into the ground, unconscious on the spot. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a cold breath. The elders of the various sects of the 100 Sect Alliance widened their eyes. Sect Master Cui, who was a third-grade martial master, was sent flying and knocked unconscious by that guy. This was too terrifying. Xiao Ziji stood on the stage and shook his head helplessly. His attacks didn't even count as a warm-up, and that guy couldn't take it anymore. Jun Changxiao said indifferently, "Trash." Everyone fell silent. A mere disciple was able to knock out a third-grade martial master. What else could they say? Jun Changxiao's gaze swept across the faces of the leaders of the various sections. He said indifferently, "The trash I'm talking about includes everyone here." As soon as these words came out, it immediately provoked anger from the crowd. Not convinced. Jun Changxiao pointed at the stage and said, "You can continue to fight with my disciple on the stage. The same rules apply. If I defeat him, I will return to the mountain and not go down to recruit disciples. Let me." The patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School stepped forward. Xiao Ziji could see that this guy hated the sect master very much. Therefore, when the battle began, he became serious and immediately sent the patriarch spinning in circles on the stage. Plop! In the end, the patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School, who had been on the stage for less than 2 minutes, was beaten down by a storm of fists and fainted. From the looks of it, his injuries were more serious than Sect Master Cui's. Continue, continue. Jun Chang said with a smile, "I'll allow you trash to take turns fighting my disciple." These words were truly arrogant. Hearing his words, the leaders of the 100 Sect Alliance no longer cared. They went on stage one by one and were beaten down one by one. 30 minutes later, Xiao Ziji defeated 10 leaders of the various sects, taking an average of 3 minutes to defeat one. The spectating cultivators all stared with their eyes wide open and their mouths agape. The one on stage was not a disciple, but a sect leader. Who among them wasn't high and mighty? Now, they were beaten unconscious by an iron-boned disciple. This was simply unimaginable. What made them collapse even more was, Xiao Ziji, who had gone through 10 battles, stood proudly on the stage with no sweat on his forehead. What did this mean? It meant that he was not tired at all. The martial disciple realm was actually this terrifying. Xiao Ziji's strength had thoroughly shocked the cultivators of Liang City, as well as City Lord Ao, who was watching the battle from afar. At that moment, he finally understood why the other party could win the grand competition of the Heyang County. With this kind of strength that could beat martial masters to the point of being unable to take care of themselves, even if he participated in a higher level competition, he would still be able to win. The iron bone was not simple, not simple. City Lord Ao was incomparably glad that he did not reject Jun Changxiao's recruitment of disciples in the city. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to standing on the side of the 100 Sect alliance and offending him. He was in charge of Liang City and could be considered a force, but not a sect. Thus, there was no need to offend an iron bone with unlimited potential. Is there anyone else who wants to come up and fight with me? Xiao Ziji stood on the stage with his hands behind his back and said proudly. In the city that he used to live in, he defeated a group of sect elders in front of countless cultivators, allowing him to regain the feeling of limitless glory. This was also why Jun Changxiao brought Xiao Ziji to Liang City and not Li Qingyang or Yi Xingchen. My precious disciple. Liang City is the place that you are most familiar with. You once lost your dignity and honor as a martial cultivator here. Today, you will get it all back. You got it all back. Far more than that. The scene of Xiao Zuiji violently beating up 10 big shots from various sects was extremely shocking. That hot man is back again. The cultivators of Liang City finally accepted the fact and finally understood that the victory of the grand competition was not given up by their fellow sect members. Who was the angriest? Who was the angriest? The Xiao family. The higher-ups of the Xiao family stood far away in the tea-house, looking at the trash that had been expelled, looking down at the various sect elders of the alliance with the posture of an expert. Their expressions were as ugly as if they had eaten shit. At this moment, Xiao Ziji turned his head, his gaze passing through the bustling streets and locking onto the great elder who was standing in front of the window on the 3rd floor. This distance was a bit far. But time seemed to have stopped. After a while, Xiao Ziji's lips curled into a smile, as if he was telling the great elder, telling everyone in the Xiao family, I, Xiao Ziji, the disciple of the Iron Bone clan, am back again. Crack. The great elder clenched his fists, his eyes filled with killing intent and anger. He knew that when the news of Xiao Ziji defeating 10 sect elders spread in the city, the Xiao family would once again be subjected to unbridled ridicule. He regretted it so much, so much. The great elder did not regret expelling Xiao Ziji from the Xiao family. He regretted that he should have killed this trash with one palm, instead of using his strength to slap the Xiao family's face again and again in Liang City. Old dog. Following his disciple's gaze, he looked at the Xiao family's higher-ups in the tea-house. Jun Changxiao muttered to himself, if you dare to have any bad thoughts about my disciple, even if you are one of the 4 major families in the web novel world, I will still dare to destroy you. Chapter 262. Xiao Ziji had beaten the 10 big shots of the allied sections. Even though the others were furious, they did not dare to fight him. After all, even the 3rd and 5th grade martial masters were knocked out. They would only be tortured if they went up. Jun Changxiao said indifferently, don't say that I, Iron Bone, am bullying you. Come, I'll change to another outer disciple to fight with you trash. Snap. He snapped his fingers. Xiao Ziji walked down and Zhang Wei walked up. He stood on the stage with an overbearing look. After all, his senior brother was so awesome just now. He could not be at a disadvantage. An outer disciple fighting with the big shots of the various sects. How arrogant was that? The big shots of the allied sects who were originally a little afraid of Xiao Ziji became even angrier. I'll go. A peak martial disciple of a 9th-rate sect leader walked up. After a round of fighting, he was defeated by Zhang Wei, a 6th-grade martial disciple. Oh my god! An outer sanctum disciple can defeat a sect leader. This is too awesome. The martial artists of Liang City widened their eyes again. It was one thing for Xiao Ziji to be strong, but the other disciples were also so awesome. It was unimaginable. Whoosh! An 8th-rate sect leader with a cultivation of a first-grade martial master went up the stage. In the end, he was defeated after a few moves. Although Zhang Wei was only a 6th-grade martial disciple, his strength had reached 15,000. The sect leader who had just entered the martial master realm only had 10,000. 5,000 Jin could make up for the gap between realms. With all kinds of tempering and martial techniques, it was easy to defeat him. I said that you're all trash. You still don't want to admit it? Jun Changshao said sharply. The big shots of the various sects were furious, but no one dared to go up the stage because they realized that the Iron Bone disciples were too strong. They would be looking for trouble if they went up. There was no doubt. Today, the Iron Bone sect's performance was absolutely awesome. When the news spread, it would definitely cause a huge sensation in Qingyang County. Sending out an outer sanctum disciple who could casually defeat a martial master level big shot of the alliance, this was simply shocking. Everyone. Jun Changshao said, do you still want to fight? The leaders of the various sects did not say a word. Their expressions were extremely ugly. They had come with such great momentum, but in the end, they were beaten to a pulp by 2 disciples of the Iron Bone sect in front of so many people. It was absolutely humiliating. Jun Changshao said, since you don't want to fight, then get out of here. Don't hinder my Iron Bone from recruiting disciples. Since he had already fallen out with the 100 Sect Alliance, he naturally would not show any mercy. Still not leaving? Seeing that they didn't intend to leave, Jun Changshao said with a cold gaze, are you waiting for me to bring my disciples to challenge your sects? The leader of the alliance hurriedly carried his unconscious comrade and left dejectedly. If he left, it meant that he had admitted defeat. Everyone is here to watch the show. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said in a clear voice, today, I, Iron Bone, am recruiting disciples in Liang City. As long as you are 14 years old or above, you can sign up. There are not many opportunities, so please don't miss it. The martial artists of Liang City immediately began to discuss in low voices. To be able to train his disciples to such a level, sect leader Jun is truly extraordinary. It's a pity that my child has already joined the 100 sect recruitment, if not I would definitely let him join Iron Bone. My nephew is already 14 years old, he can give it a try. Many martial artists did not dare to let their children join Iron Bone because they were afraid of the 100 Sect Alliance. Today, with just 2 disciples, they were able to beat the leaders of the various sections. This meant that they were really strong and were not afraid. What was there to consider? They had to join Iron Bone sect. In a moment, all the elders with children who were already 14 years old started to move. In just half an hour, there were already over 100 young men and women gathered in the square, their eyes filled with excitement and excitement. Iron Bone sect had become famous recently and they had naturally heard of it. They also wanted to become a member, but they were stopped by their families and could only suppress their thoughts. Name: Shengguan Shuo. Jun Changshao raised his head. Seeing that the other party was young and had a sturdy body, he stamped the sect leader's seal. Ding! Sect member, 503-1000. Because of the death of a disciple, the contribution points had reached 503 and did not increase. Name: Yang Kong. A tall young man scratched his head. After confirming his gaze, Jun Changshao stamped the sect leader's seal again. The Liang City cultivators who were watching from afar started to twitch their mouths. Sect leader Jun only asked for their names and did not ask about their spirit roots and cultivation. Wasn't he too casual in recruiting disciples? The next person to register was a delicate and pretty girl called Yuan Xiaohan. Iron Bone Sect's young energy was too strong and Jun Changshan naturally wanted to recruit more female disciples to suppress it, so he did not even consider and stamped the sect leader's seal. Next, the young man needed to confirm his gaze to consider whether to accept or not. As long as it was a young girl, he would accept her without hesitation. The Liang city cultivators were a little dizzy. Recruiting disciples so casually was unheard of. That, after accepting 20 to 30 people, an old man in tattered clothes walked over and said, "Sect leader Jun, I have a child here. She's a little young. Will your sect accept her?" Jun Changshan raised his head and saw a 6 to 7-year-old girl hiding behind the old man. Her big round eyes were filled with fear. "I'm sorry," Jun Changshan said, "she's too young." Although the little girl's face was dirty, she looked very cute. It was a pity that Iron Bone Sect was not a kindergarten and would not accept such a young child. The old man begged, "This child has no parents. She will starve to death sooner or later if she follows me on the streets. Sect leader Jun, please be kind and accept her into the sect." "Grandpa Lu, I won't leave. I want to follow you," the little girl said in a childish voice. The fear in her eyes was replaced by determination. Jun Changshan shook his head and said, "Old man, there are many orphans in this world. If I accept every one of them, the sect will not be able to accept them." "Humph," the little girl pouted and said, "I don't want to join your sect. I want to stay with Grandpa Lu." As she spoke, she pulled the old man back. Jun Changshan shook his head and said, "Next. Meng Yuxuan." Slap. The sect seal was stamped. An hour later, a total of 100 young men and women became Iron Bone disciples. The number of people in the sect increased from 502 to 602. The contribution points also increased from a miserable 5 to 104 points. This way, sect leader Jun felt very safe. There were more young girls than young men among the disciples recruited in Liang City this time. After returning to the sect, they could suppress their masculine aura. "Let's go," sect leader Jun said, back to the sect. He first went to the City Lord Manor to bid farewell to City Lord Ao. Then, he led the group of disciples back to the sect. As soon as he walked out of the city gate, he saw the hunchbacked old man in tattered clothes leading the little girl out step by step. The back view of the old man and the young girl looked rather pitiful. Sigh. Jun Changshan shook his head and said, "There are many pitiful people in this world. If I were to help all of them, why would I develop the sect? I might as well set up a welfare institute. Let's go." He led the disciples away. Looking at the people of Iron Bone walking past him, the old man sighed and said, "Meng Ying, are you really going to wander the world with Grandpa?" The girl called Meng Ying said seriously, "Grandpa Lu is Er's closest relative in this world. Wherever you go, Er will follow." "That's good." The old man said kindly, "Let's go to Sun City." "Okay." The old man and the young girl walked along the official road. Their shadows stretched out endlessly under the dusk. Chapter 263. After returning to the sect, Li Qingyang began to arrange accommodations for his new junior brothers and sisters. He also distributed school uniforms and sect rules booklets. He also gave them all kinds of pills. Sitting on the sect master's throne, Jun Changshan murmured, "When they reach stage 12, they can be certified as a 7th-rate sect." Jun Changshan murmured. The requirements for a 7th-rate sect were to be a martial master, 50 martial disciples, and 500 disciples at stage 12. Jun Changshan was now a 6th-grade martial master, so he met the requirements. As for the 50 martial disciples, not counting the new disciples, the 501 disciples in the Iron Bone sect were all martial disciples. The reason why they couldn't advance was that they still needed 500 disciples at stage 12. That would be 50 plus 500, so they didn't have enough people. Now that the number of disciples had increased from 502 to 602, they only needed to cultivate them and open 12 meridians to be certified. Sect Master Jun wouldn't be satisfied with 600 disciples, so after arranging for the new disciples, he decided to go to the nearest Sun city to continue recruiting. Sect Master Li Qingyang said, I have a friend in Sun city. I want to go and see him. Okay. Jun Changshao let Xiao Ziji cultivate in the sect and left with the second disciple and Zhang Wei the next day. Sun City was one of the 8 cities in Azure Sun County. Previously, when the AI clan auctioned the healing pill, the Song's second young master, who stood up again after taking it, came from this city's Song clan. It was a coincidence. Li Qingyang's friend was the Song's second young master. One was the number 1 genius of Azure Sun City, and the other was the number 1 genius of Sun City. The two met in the wild and had their eyes on the same ferocious beast. In the end, they became friends. Later, when the Song's second young master was paralyzed in bed, Li Qingyang went to visit him but was rejected. Since then, the two didn't contact each other. It was only recently that he learned from the Drizzle Hall that his friend, who he hadn't contacted for many years, stood up again with the help of the sect master's healing pill. TSK. Jun Changshao said, not only did my healing pill save you, it also saved your friend. Perhaps this is fate. Li Qingyang said seriously, that's why I went to visit this old friend, hoping to persuade him to join the Iron Bone clan. Jun Changshao said, that will depend on how you persuade them. Although he did not care about the aptitude of his disciples, he would not mind filling the remaining vacancies with superior-grade spiritual roots. There were many roads leading to Sunyang City. Jun Changshao chose a mountain path and estimated that they would arrive in an hour. However, when he brought his disciples to a mountain, he vaguely heard a roar coming from the depths of the mountain. Li Qingyang said, Sect leader, the ferocious beasts are attacking humans. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, let's go take a look. Everyone followed the voice. Soon, they saw a leopard lowering its head and biting a human on a huge rock in front of them. His clothes were torn, and there were claw and bite marks on his back. Blood flowed all over the ground. Kill it. Jun Changshao said, see if there are any crystal cores. Swish. Li Qingyang used the cloud-treading steps and flew over. The cold-edged sword in his hand shook and immediately formed a sword light, cutting off the head of the lower second-grade leopard. Poochie. The chest was cut open, and the crystal core rolled down. It's worth it, Jun Changshao said. It was definitely worth it to get a crystal core. Li Qingyang picked up the crystal core and then came to the person who was bitten. He put a hand on his neck and shook his head. Sect leader, he's already dead. It's fate. There's no other way. Jun Changshao said, let's hurry on. Ferocious beasts were everywhere in the mountains. Since they came in, they naturally had to be prepared to die. Okay. Li Qingyang put his sword back into its sheath. But just as he took a step, he suddenly stopped, looked down at the corpse, and then grabbed it. There was a small pit under the corpse, and a girl covered in blood was curled up inside. Sect leader. Li Qingyang said, there's a girl. Jun Changshao turned around. When he saw Li Qingyang lifting the corpse, he immediately recognized it. Wasn't this the old man from Liang City yesterday? Could it be? He walked over and looked into the pit. It was indeed the 7 or 8-year-old girl who called him Grandpa Lu. The little girl seemed to be extremely scared. Her body was curled up and trembling non-stop. Grandpa Lu, after a while, when she saw the old man's corpse, she could no longer control her emotions and burst into tears. Li Qingyang said, Sect leader, this old man must have pressed her down to protect her and used his body to bear the bites of the ferocious beasts. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, if you're not strong enough, don't walk the unorthodox path. In the mountains, a small mound was piled up. The stone wall was engraved with the words, Grandpa Lu's grave. The little girl knelt in front of him, her eyes swollen from crying. Sect leader. Li Qingyang couldn't bear it and said, "This child is so pitiful. Why don't you take her in as a disciple?" He had already learned what happened in Liang City yesterday from his junior brother. He knew that the little girl had no parents. Now that the old man had died for her, she didn't have any relatives. How pitiful it was to live alone in this world. Although he had killed many people and became much more decisive, Li Qingyang was still kind at heart. Jun Changshao said, "Okay." He was not a cold-blooded and heartless person. Since he met her in the mountains, he could only take her in. He couldn't let a young girl like her be alone in the wilderness. Back then, because Lu Wancher cried, he took her in as a disciple. Some readers called him the Holy Mother. Today, he took in another little girl. He was already mentally prepared. Ling Xue. Here. Carry her away. Ha. Ling Yuanxue still obeyed the sect leader's order and carried the little girl. However, the little girl cried and wanted to accompany Grandpa Lu. "Let's go to Sunyang City." Jun Changshao led the disciples and continued on their way. The little girl called Menjing kept crying and throwing a tantrum. Her tear-filled eyes kept looking at the tombstone. Although Grandpa Lu was not related to her by blood, he was her only family in this world. Now, he was gradually leaving and disappearing. After Jun Changshao and the others left, the newly built graveyard suddenly trembled. The tombstone fell and the soil was overturned. Shwa! Suddenly, a skinny hand reached out from the graveyard. The dead old man slowly crawled out from inside. If this scene was seen by others, they would probably be scared to death. Huff! The old man sat on the tombstone and gasped for breath. He was still alive. He didn't die. Child. After a short rest, the old man looked at the direction where Jun Changshao left and said in an old voice, "My deduction will not be wrong. Iron bone is definitely not simple. I hope you can become stronger in this sect in the future." No. He paused and said, "Live a carefree life." Shwa. 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 Several martial artists in black appeared and lined up neatly behind the old man, as if they were strictly trained soldiers. Guardian Lu. One of them whispered, "When will we return to the Demon Mountain?" The beggar-like old man stood up. A black aura instantly shrouded his body, forming a pitch-black armor. His turbid eyes became extremely cold. He said, "Young master's future has been arranged. It's time for us lowly lives to follow the demon master." On this day, dozens of black streams of light flew away. The gloomy aura they emitted shocked the birds and beasts in the mountain and killed them on the spot. Chapter 264. Because they wasted some time on the road, Jun Changshao took 4 hours to reach Sun City. Grandpa Lu. The girl who cried herself to sleep on Ling Yuanshue's shoulder would occasionally call out in her sleep. Sect leader. Li Qingyang looked at her and said, "This little girl is so pitiful." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "There are many pitiful people in the world, we can't save every one of them." Understood. Li Qingyang knew that the sect leader was just saying it. Saving him, saving junior brother Xiao, and even saving this little girl meant that he was kind in his heart and was just hiding it. A qualified disciple wouldn't say it even if they knew. If Lu Qianqian was here, she would have exposed him and used words to attack the sect leader. "Let's go." Jun Changshao said, "Let's enter the city." Same old rules. After entering Sun City, they went directly to the city lord's manor and told him that they were recruiting disciples. The Sun City lord also received the news that many Iron Bone disciples had won the county championship, so he naturally wouldn't object. He had the same thoughts as City Lord Ao. The matters between the sects should be settled by the sects and had nothing to do with them. Sun City Square. The gate representing Iron Bone clan stood up once more. This time, it was very successful. The 100 Sect alliance didn't cause any trouble. After some publicity, they recruited another 100 people, increasing their members from 602 to 712, and their contribution points from 104 to 214. It seems like we need to go to the other 4 cities to recruit more disciples, Jun Changshao muttered. Sect leader. At this moment, Li Qingyang walked over, followed by a handsome teen. This person was the second young master of the Song family, Song Xianzhou. This number 1 genius of Sun City was arrogant in the past, but now that he stood up again, his personality had become more mature and introverted. Sect leader Jun, Song Xianzhou cupped his hands and said, I have heard a lot about you, nice to meet you. He had heard about the Iron Bone long ago. He also knew that his good friend Li Qingyang had joined this sect, so he had always been very interested in it. He had originally planned to recuperate in his family for a period of time before paying a visit. Young Master Song. Jun Changshao said, Qingyang should have told you. Are you interested in joining Iron Bone? Shua. Song Xianzhou cupped his fists and said seriously, if sect leader Jun doesn't mind that I used to be a paralyzed person, I'm willing to join the Iron Bone clan. Jun Changshao said, this seat is thirsty for talent. Why would I dislike it? Pa. The entry form was stamped with a seal. The number of members and contribution points increased by 1 point, and Iron Bone had gained another genius with high aptitude. My name is Song Xianzhou. Song Xianzhou cupped his fists and said respectfully, greetings, sect master. What's your cultivation level now? 10th level meridian opening. If he hadn't been paralyzed for so many years, he would have already become a martial disciple. Jun Changshao thought to himself, this realm is just right for him to cultivate the muscle bone strengthening scripture. I can focus on nurturing him. Go home and say goodbye to your parents. Sect master, I already said goodbye to my parents when I came out. So fast. Li Qingyang transmitted his voice, Sect master, I told junior brother Xianzhou what you said when you recruited me. He has great expectations for our Iron Bone's future. So that's why. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, let's return to the clan. Under the gazes of many Sun City cultivators, he left with a group of disciples. Sigh. The various forces hiding in the dark all shook their heads and sighed. Song Xianzhou stood up again with the help of a healing pill. They had come early, hoping to recruit him. However, Patriarch's son announced that his son had just recovered and needed time to recuperate, so he rejected all recruitment. Who would have thought that Iron Bone would snatch him away? Patriarch. In the Song clan's hall, an elder said with an ugly expression, isn't it a little inappropriate for Xianzhou to join Iron Bone? Yes. Another elder said, Jun Changshao not only offended Qin Haran, he also offended Sacred Spring Sect. Xianzhou joining this clan is really not a wise move. The Song clan elders were all against Song Xianzhou joining Iron Bone. This was not contempt or belittlement, but too much trouble. How could he survive in the martial arts world in the future? Old Master Song said, Xianzhou joining Iron Bone is his own choice. As his father, I naturally support him unconditionally. This Patriarch Song was much more open-minded than Patriarch Li. Of course. This was also the reason why Iron Bone had become famous recently. If it was the 100 sects recruiting, they would definitely be like Patriarch Li and oppose their son joining this unranked clan. The Song clan elders all fell silent. Since the Patriarch had said so, it was useless even if they opposed. After the meeting, Old Master Song stood at the window of the study with his hands behind his back and said, Zhou, joining Iron Bone is your own choice. No matter how difficult the road in the future is, you must persevere. Iron Bone. Jun Changshao brought his disciple back and was arranged by Li Qingyang. What made him worried was that the little girl had not walked out of her sadness. She was still hiding in the corner of the room. He asked her name but she did not say it. How was he going to recruit her? Patriarch. Lu Wancher volunteered, I'll go and ask. N. Jun Changshao said. At this time, he could only let the older lowly persuade the younger lowly. Lu Wancher made a few dishes and then entered the room. Munch munch. Not long after, the sound of eating could be heard. Jun Changshao looked from the window and saw the little girl holding a pair of chopsticks and eating in big mouthfuls. She even said in a childish voice, Sister Lu, the dishes you made are so fragrant. Sure enough, there were very few people in this world who could resist the temptation of delicious food. Patriarch. Lu Wancher pulled the little girl's hand and walked out. She smiled and said, her name is Yao Menjing. She is willing to join Iron Bone. She took out the entry form, filled in her name and stamped it. Jun Changshao sent a message, this little brat is really down, talk to her. N. Lu Wancher said, Patriarch, can Menjing and I stay in the same room? No problem. After settling the second batch of disciples, Jun Changshao headed to Yaoyang City once more. The alliance in Yaoyang City was really unfriendly. After all, Spirit Fountain Sect was wiped out by that fellow. So right after he placed his face on the square, they came over to find trouble. Not happy. Jun Changshao said calmly, fight with my disciple. If you win, leave immediately and don't go down the mountain to recruit disciples. Thus, Yi Xingchen stood on the fighting stage and fought one after another. In a short time, he defeated 30 alliance elders. Night Emperor was much more vicious than Xiao Ziji. He would probably need to lie in bed for 3 to 5 months to recover. After dealing with these bunch of fleas, the recruitment began. 2 hours later, he recruited 100 disciples. For the next few days, Jun Changshao went to Huayang City, Xingyang City, and Shouyang City. After the 100 Sect alliance suffered twice, they did not dare to find trouble again, so the recruitment went very smoothly. Pa! He stamped the Patriarch's seal again and a crisp system notification sounded in his ears. Ding! Sect members, 10001000. Ding! Sect contribution points, 5021000. When Jun Changshao brought the newly recruited disciples back to the sect, the next day, the system determined that they met the requirements. The sect mission board in the mission pavilion was filled with missions. From the recommended stars, as long as the disciples complete all the missions, the construction should be able to reach level 4. Jun Changshao rubbed his hands. Level 4 construction opened the talisman pavilion. Patriarch Jun was really looking forward to it because he might be able to create Talisman of Insight, Talisman of Endurance, Talisman of Speed, and other talismans. Chapter 265. When the number of disciples reached 1,000, a sect mission would appear and be linked to the mission board. There were 3 benefits to this. First, if the number of disciples reached a certain number, the sect could be upgraded. Second, disciples could obtain achievement points from completing missions and upgrade the sect. Thirdly, by completing the sect's missions, one would be able to earn contribution points. By completing 1,000 achievement points, one would be able to obtain 1,000 contribution points. At that moment, sect leader Jun felt that he was going to become rich again and could sit back and relax. The third sect mission appeared. 1-star missions were rare, and most of them were 2-star missions. There were even 4-star missions. The disciples who entered the sect earlier were stronger and would choose 2-star or 3-star missions. As for 1-star missions, they were left for the junior brothers who just entered the sect. Jun Changshao was very pleased. He wanted to build a strong sect, but at the same time, he wanted to build a sect with love, where the disciples could help each other and not fight against each other all day for their own selfish desires. The 4-star missions were a little difficult. Most of them were to kill high-level beasts. They either needed enough manpower or only inner sect disciples to do it. Sect leader Li Qingyang said, "We don't have enough sculpting rooms again." There were more than 400 new disciples. If they wanted to become stronger, they needed to consume pills and cultivate techniques. Their muscles were also indispensable. Ding! Host spent 400 contribution points and obtained 20 muscle sculpting rooms. They have been transferred to the interspatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 102-1000. Jun Changshao directly sold 20 sets and placed them in the training rooms. This way, the number of sculpting rooms increased to 40. These sculpting rooms still couldn't support hundreds of people, but there was no other way. After all, the contribution points were limited. He could only let them sculpt their bodies in batches. The new disciples definitely had a lot of benefits. Beginner healing pills and body sculpting pills had to be given to each disciple. Meridian opening pills and chi revolving pills would also be given out according to their level. In terms of martial techniques, Jun Changshao didn't give them out one by one. Instead, he chose a room in the outer courtyard and named it the Technique Pavilion. He placed all the martial techniques he bought in the store inside. The disciples could choose whatever they wanted to learn. Under normal circumstances, no matter if it was a sect, family, or school, many of the main characters' pretentious journey started from the Technique Pavilion. In Iron Bone, there was no need to fight for the right to enter. There was also no need to be mocked by the gatekeeper elders. They could enter and learn as they wished. This is amazing. After consuming the body sculpting pill, Song Xianzhou could feel that his physical body and strength had improved to different degrees. He was so excited that his hands were trembling. As a genius, he naturally understood that the transformation of his body would have a profound impact on his future martial path. When he cultivated Yi Jin Jing, rupturing fist, and other mental cultivation techniques, the shock in his heart became even more intense. At that moment, Song Xianzhou understood that the rise of Iron Bone was not a coincidence. Because he had joined the sect, there was no need to hide some things, so Li Qingyang told him about the healing pill. After learning that the pills he consumed in the AI clan were actually concocted by the sect master, Song Xianzhou came to the main hall and knelt before Jun Changshao. Paralyzed on the bed, he was completely disheartened. Now that he was able to stand up again and continue practicing martial arts, he was like a second parent. Kneeling and kowtowing was a matter of course. Jun Changshao waved his hand and stopped the disciple from bowing. He said, "If you want to repay me, then work hard to become stronger and bring glory to the sect." Song Xianzhou said with a determined gaze, "Disciple Song Xianzhou is willing to go through fire and water for Iron Bone sect." Not only was this #1 genius of Songyang City shocked. Those disciples who had just joined the sect were also deeply shocked after receiving all kinds of martial arts resources. They regretted that they didn't join the Iron Bone sect earlier and wasted their time. Of course. When they had just joined, they would definitely be taken care of by their senior brothers, especially by senior brother Li Fei's Happy Football. But also pain and happiness. As long as they could become stronger faster in the sect, it was okay even if they were kicked in the face every day. The Drizzle Hall and the Medicine Hall were also short of manpower. Sect Master Jun chose many new disciples and divided them into 2 halls to replenish the fresh blood. The disciples started to accept missions from the mission pavilion one after another. They either did them alone or in groups. In the following period of time, Jun Changshao would often hear the sound of the sect's missions being completed. His achievement and contribution points also continued to rise. To upgrade to level 4, he needed 1,000 achievement points. To upgrade the sect's level, some of the new disciples needed to break through to level 12 meridian opening. Both required some time. No rush, no rush. He should be able to do it all in 1 or 2 months. Jun Changshao temporarily handed over the sect's affairs to Li Luoqiu and began to cultivate without paying attention to outside matters. There were still 7 or 8 months before the 1-year agreement with the Sacred Spring sect. He had to hurry up and improve. It would be best if he could break through to the peak of Martial Master or Wuzong. The tragedy was, after a month, he had entered the 7th rank from the 6th rank. Why was it described as a tragedy? Why was it described as only? Because he had taken 10x qi gathering pills. It can't be. Jun Changshao said frantically, 1 month of cultivation is equivalent to 10 months of cultivation for others, but I only advanced by 1 rank. The system said, it's normal. Normal? Jun Changshao was speechless. After entering the martial master realm from the martial disciple realm, he felt that it was very easy to advance. This time, it was the system's turn to be speechless. It said, you feel that it's easy because you have completed the epic missions and skipped levels. In fact, in the martial master realm, especially after the 5th rank, even outstanding martial artists need 1 or 2 years to advance. I have 10x qi gathering pills, Jun Changshao said. The system said, the higher the level, the more heaven and earth attributes you need. The effect of 10x qi gathering pills will become less obvious. The accumulation of time is especially important. Understood. Jun Chang said with a smile, so you're saying that the higher your cultivation level, the more qi gathering pills you need. System, what I mean is, the path of martial arts is about gradual progress. It requires a more detailed understanding of the heaven and earth attributes, and it takes time to slowly accumulate. You fucking talk about high multiplier qi gathering pills, it's not impossible. Let's go and see how Elder Wei's medicinal herbs are doing. During this period of time, the medicinal garden had expanded from more than 10 mu to 50 mu under the care of the medicinal hall's members. It was filled with all kinds of medicinal herbs. The spiritual energy that floated out gathered in the sky, giving people a feeling of clouds and mist. In the small pavilion, Elder Wei handed over a few spatial rings and said, this is the 3rd batch of high-quality medicinal herbs. The medicinal herbs had matured half a month ago. Because Jun Changshao was focused on cultivation, he did not disturb him, so he temporarily stored them. Elder Wei. Jun Changshao took it, drank a mouthful of tea and said, the 200,000 seeds we planted should be maturing soon, right? Elder Wei said, because it's the first time the medicinal herbs around the sect are planted, the environment is limited. I'm afraid it'll take a month or so to mature. No rush, take it slow, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher walked over with Yao Menjing, smiled and said, Sect Master, why are you here too? Jun Changshao joked, why can't I be here? As he spoke, he looked at the little girl. In the past month, Yao Menjing had walked out of her sadness and integrated into Iron Bone's life. Because she was too young, she had not started martial arts. She followed behind Lu Wancher all day, like a little shadow. Iron Bone's disciples knew that Yao Menjing's background was pitiful, so they took good care of her. It could be said that she was doted on by everyone in the sect. Especially Su Xiaomua and Li Fei, who thought of ways to make their junior sister laugh. It was strange. In front of the senior brothers and sisters, Yao Menjing would be very cheerful, but in front of the sect master, she would be reserved. Now, she was hiding behind Lu Wancher, and her little face became timid again. Jun Changshao shook his head and thought, am I very scary? Chapter 266. Over the past month, the disciples had completed many sect missions. Their achievement points had increased from 0 to 600 points, and their contribution points had increased from 102 to 602 points. Sect leader Jun was rich. He wished he could open the store and refresh himself. Hold it in, hold it in. Now that he had more disciples, the contribution points would be more practical to use on the sect's construction. There was no need to rely on luck for now. As sect leader Jun's realm increased, so did the disciples. Especially the new disciples, who had opened their 12 meridians with the help of various pills. In the beginning, there were only a few energy-gathering pills. Now, there were a lot of energy-gathering pills, which were at least 5 times stronger. It was reasonable for the disciples to break through faster. The Iron Bones sect was on the right track and was developing rapidly. Li Qingyang and the other inner disciples had also increased their realms in the past month. Other than Tian Qi, who had a high-grade spirit root, who was a rank 9 martial disciple, the rest had all reached the peak of martial disciple. Martial disciple and martial master were obstacles. If they wanted to break through, they needed time to understand the attributes of heaven and earth and let the spiritual energy in their cyclones sublimate. Fortunately, they had supreme-grade spirit roots, so it was not a big problem. However, sect leader Jun thought it was too slow. After all, there was only half a year left before he went to challenge the Sacred Spring sect. He could not let them be stuck at the peak. Are there any pills in the store that can help me break through to Martial Master? Jun Changshao asked. If there were energy-gathering pills for breaking through to Martial Disciple, then there must be similar pills to help him break through to Martial Master. The system said, there are, but it depends on the host's luck. Jun Changshao was silent. Luck was hard to predict. If he went for pills, he might not get any even if he used up all his contribution points. Sometimes, if he refreshed randomly, he might get something unexpected if he was lucky. Forget it, forget it. I'll think about it when I overflow my contribution points. Jun Changshao suppressed his thoughts and continued to cultivate. After cultivating for a night, from the perspective of the increase in spiritual energy, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to break through. 1 month from rank 6 to rank 7, and 2 months from rank 7 to rank 8. If he wanted to break through to rank 9, would it have to double? Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, it will be difficult to break through to the peak of Martial Master if I challenge the Sacred Spring sect. As he said that, he headed to the tower. Ta. Jun Changshao stood on the first floor of the Tower of Experience and withstood the gravity for 4 hours. His expression did not change, and he did not even pant. Ever since he obtained the Experience Tower, as long as he was in the sect, he would come here to temper himself. He did not pursue extreme tempering, and had long since adapted to it. If Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others did not deliberately challenge the record, they could adapt well. To the second floor. Jun Changshao ignored the gravity and walked to the front of the stairs. Then, he climbed up step by step. The second floor of the training tower lit up early, because Su Xiaomua and Li Fei had already started their training. At this moment, the two of them were running around the illusory space with their tongues hanging out. It felt as if there was a pack of mad dogs chasing after them. Not a bunch of rabid dogs. It was a group of terrifying high-quality dire beasts. They were extremely fast, baring their fangs and roaring. Their sharp teeth were only a palm's distance away from their buttocks. If they were caught and bitten, it meant that they failed, and they would be weakened for 2 days. Only the people involved could see the dire beasts chasing after them, so Jun Changshao shook his head and said, these two really look like idiots. Shwa. Shwa. Ha. 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 Not long after, Jun Changshao opened his 2 long legs and ran wildly with his tongue hanging out. Because they were stronger than the disciples, not only were there more dire beasts, but they were also very fast, so he could only run with all his might. How long would he run for? At least an hour. Under the deterrence of the side effect of being weakened for 2 days, Jun Changshao and the other 2 ran faster than the other. Yes. In the Tower of Experience, there were now 3 idiots. Being chased by a group of terrifying dire beasts, the tempering of his movement technique was still very effective. In just a few days, Jun Changshao felt that his speed was faster than before, and his understanding of the cloud steps had also deepened. Therefore, every day, he would cultivate for 2 hours on the first floor, 1 hour on the second floor, and the rest of the time would be used to cultivate and manage the sect. Although sect leader Jun needed 2 months to level up, his body and movement technique had been tempered multiple times, and his overall strength could not be measured by his cultivation level. Li Qingyang and the others were the same. Although they were temporarily stuck at the peak of martial disciple, and couldn't enter the martial master level, their bodies and strength were still surpassing their limits. The members of the Drizzle Hall also had a deeper understanding of the telepathy technique, and could already send messages from Qingyang City, which was 100 miles away. As for the other 7 cities, as their cultivation deepened, they would be able to send messages through their minds sooner or later. A few days later, Ai Shang came to visit again. The auction in Lingyang City had already ended, and all the pills had been sold. 70 healing pills were sold for 80 million, and 20 body-shaping pills were sold for 120 million. The two added together were 200 million. When Jun Changshao received the 100 million silver notes from the AI family head, he exclaimed, as expected of an 8th-grade county, "There are so many rich people." Sect leader Jun Ai Shang smiled and said, "The pills you made are urgently needed by the warriors. As long as there are enough of them, there will be no shortage of sales." Jun Changshao said, "The rarer something is, the more valuable it is. It may not be a good thing to sell too many pills." Ai Shang agreed and said, "Therefore, after some consideration, I have decided to hold an auction in Huyang City on the first day of every month. There will be 10 healing pills and 5 body-shaping pills." Okay. Jun Changshao handed over 20 healing pills and 10 body-shaping pills and said, "These are enough for 2 months. Sell them first." Ai Shang hurriedly accepted them. Before leaving, he gave a few more spatial rings and said, "Sect leader Jun, these are the herbs and high-quality seeds I bought in Lingyang City." Jun Changshao wanted to pay the money, but the AI family head refused to accept it, so he had to personally send it to the door. After seeing Ai Shang leave, he said excitedly, "I didn't leave my house, and I easily earned 100 million. It feels good. Ding! Ding!" After a night of refining, all 4 types of pills were produced. Sect leader Jun's contribution points increased according to the sect's missions, and the money and pills gradually increased. A few more days passed. All the new disciples had broken through to the channel opening period, and more than 100 of them had reached the 12th stage. Song Xianzhou had already become a martial disciple with the help of the body metamorphose scripture and pills. Qingyang City. Jun Changshao said, "Go down the mountain and ask the people from the certification center to come and verify." The number of people who had reached the 12th stage had already met the requirement for the sect to be promoted to the 7th class. But because there were too many people, they had to go up the mountain for verification. Yes. Li Qingyang went down the mountain and entered the certification center of Qingyang City. When attendant Zhao heard that Iron Bone was going to have their sect verified again, his expression became sluggish. It had only been a few months since they were promoted from the 9th class to the 8th class. Attendant Zhao. Seeing Li Qingyang leave, a warrior in the center said unhappily, "Iron Bone thinks too highly of themselves. They need us to send people to verify their sect's grade." "That's right." Another person said unhappily, "Only 6th class sects are qualified for us to verify. An 8th class sect is too arrogant." Attendant Zhao reprimanded, "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and prepare. Tomorrow, follow me to Iron Bone for verification." After being scolded by Elder Ma of Tsang Mountain Sect, he was very afraid of Jun Changshao, so he was willing to break the rules and personally verify an 8th class sect. To be honest, If it wasn't for the fact that the system could change the sect's grade and reward contribution points and achievement points after verifying a sect leader June wouldn't even bother to verify it. Borrowing the words of a certain reader. Do I need you to admit that I'm strong? Do you think I can't become strong if you don't admit it? Chapter 267. The next day. Deacon Zhao brought a few members of the certification center and rushed all the way to Iron Bone. When they walked in and stood at the inner door, they looked at the magnificent main hall in front of them. Looking at the surrounding jade carvings and jade buildings, they were all dumbfounded. Was this an 8th-rate sect? If it wasn't for the words Iron Bone Clan written clearly on the plaque outside, Deacon Zhao and the others would have thought that this was a 6th-rate sect. To be honest. After Li Qingyang recultivated a few times, the Iron Bone was truly magnificent. Other than the nameless mountain, the architectural specifications were not inferior to the 6th-rate Haoqi sect. What shocked Deacon Zhao even more was that hundreds of disciples were gathered in the martial arts practice field. Their entire bodies were emitting essence, energy, and spirit. There was no need to verify that they were at the martial disciple level. Lord Deacon. A martial artist exclaimed, these Iron Bone disciples who are cultivating are probably all martial disciples. The person beside him said in disbelief, a few months ago, they were still an unranked sect. How did they suddenly become so powerful? These two brothers were a little unhappy yesterday. Today, when they saw the Iron Bones buildings and the aura of the disciples, they were immediately slapped in the face. Deacon Zhao calmed down and said, Sect leader June has been recruiting disciples recently. Could it be that all of them are martial disciples? Although his tone was questioning, he was 100% certain that the disciples he recruited were all martial disciples. Oh my God! How did he convince so many martial disciples to join the Iron Bone? Thinking back to the recruitment of the 100 sects, he convinced the number 1 genius of the Azure Sun County, Li Qingyang. He also thought back to the Star Moon Tower, where he made the Alliance's big shots vomit blood. Sect leader June must have a silver tongue. Deacon Zhao believed that the Iron Bone's martial disciples were directly recruited. If Jun Changshao knew, he would be happy to accept it. After all, it wasn't that shocking, and it was also in line with the strategy of developing the sect in a low-key manner. Deacon Zhao. Li Qingyang said, please. Under his lead, Deacon Zhao led a few members to the main hall. On the way, when they passed by the Iron Bone disciples, they all noticed that the men were tall and sturdy, and the women were light and valiant. These martial disciples were definitely not mediocre. Deacon Zhao, who had authenticated countless sects, came to Iron Bone and experienced what it meant to be shocked. In the main hall. After the disciples served the tea, Jun Changshao asked, Deacon Zhao, is my Iron Bone okay? Deacon Zhao cupped his fists and said, Sect Master Jun's sect is extraordinary. This Zhao evaluates its potential as first class. First rank. The members of the certification center behind him were shocked. When the certification center came to verify the sect's grade, they would make a professional estimation of the sect's potential from all aspects and give it 4 different grades of evaluation, A, B, C, and D. A was the highest and D the lowest. Each level was further divided into 3 levels. For example, although A was the highest grade, it was also divided into first, second, and third grades, from lowest to highest. These people who worked in the authentication center had authenticated many sects with Deacon Zhao, but the highest evaluation they could give was only Class B. Today, he actually gave Iron Bone an A rating. Even the vast Qi sect couldn't achieve such a feat for a sect from a 9th grade county to have the potential to reach the 1st grade. Although the members were shocked, they didn't question it. Because Deacon Zhao had been authenticating sects for dozens of years, his qualifications and experience were very high. Giving an A rating was definitely a professional and not a casual remark. Jun Changshao didn't understand the standards of the certification center. But in his knowledge, the word "a" was definitely a good evaluation, so he cupped his fists and smiled. Deacon Zhao is too serious, too serious. It wasn't just good, it was extremely good. To be able to get an A rating from the certification center, one had to be in a high-grade county or the sect itself had reached the 6th grade. What about Iron Bone? It wasn't in a high-grade county with Earth Spirit talents, and its sect was only an 8th grade one. If Deacon Zhao's A rating was spread to the Jianghu, it would definitely shock many sects and martial artists. In this county, the number of sects with the potential to reach the 1st grade could be counted with 5 fingers. Oh, right. Jun Changshao had killed Liao Ciyuan Fang, and the Qishan sect he was in charge of had received an A rating, with the reason being that it had great potential to be promoted from a sect to a sect. Deacon Zhao said, "Sect leader Jun's disciples are very strong, and their auras are vigorous. One look and I can tell that they aren't ordinary martial disciples. This is the reason I gave them an A rating, and it's definitely not out of politeness." What did a sect's potential depend on? It definitely didn't depend on the buildings, but on the disciples. Even if the sect was built to be more majestic than the imperial palace, and all the disciples were a group of 2nd or 3rd stage meridian opening cultivators, they definitely wouldn't even receive a B rating. On the contrary, even if the sect was a bunch of thatched cottages, and the group of high-grade disciples lived inside, they would still receive an A rating. If an 8th grade sect had 500 martial disciples, if they didn't receive an A rating, his decades as a deacon would be completely wasted. Deacon Zhao. Jun Changshao returned to the topic, when will the sect be authenticated? Deacon Zhao said, if sect leader Jun gathers the disciples who meet the requirements in the martial arts field, we can authenticate now. Qingyang. Jun Changshao said, gather the disciples and let Deacon Zhao authenticate them one by one. Yes. Li Qingyang left. Not long after, 550 disciples lined up neatly in the martial arts field. Deacon Zhao walked out of the main hall and looked at the group of Iron Bone disciples with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. He thought to himself, what reason is there to not give them an A rating? Deacon Zhao. Jun Changshao pointed to the disciples on the left and said, these are my Iron Bone disciples with a 12th stage meridian opening cultivation. Please begin the authentication. Okay. Deacon Zhao walked down and took out a testing stone from his spatial ring, placing it outside the martial arts field. Please activate the light rings in your hands, and then proceed with the test one by one. As long as your strength reaches 150 kilograms, you pass. The 12 meridian opening cultivation rings could be faked, but strength wouldn't. If a fist could reach 150 kilograms, it would definitely be a 12th stage meridian opening. Go. Jun Changshao waved his hand. Yang Kong, who had just entered the sect, walked up first. He stopped in front of the testing stone and took a deep breath. Then, he raised his fist and punched it. His face was indifferent, and he didn't seem to be serious at all. Deacon Zhao shook his head and thought to himself, isn't the sect leader blaming the sect for being so perfunctory? Bang! His fist landed on the testing stone, and the strength displayed was 150 kilograms. This, Deacon Zhao was dumbfounded. Next, he would continue to be dumbfounded. Because the disciples who came up one after another all attacked with indifference, and the strength displayed was not lower than 150 kilograms. After 50 disciples were authenticated, Jun Changshao said, Deacon Zhao, I really don't have enough Iron Bone 12th stage meridian opening disciples. Can I use martial disciples instead? Deacon Zhao's mouth twitched and said, sure. Go. Jun Changshao said. Cui Bujian walked up first, raised his small fist, and lightly punched the testing stone. He swore that he had controlled his strength, but he still managed to hit 150 kilograms. Chapter 268. Seeing Cui Bujian punch out 3,000 gene of strength, Deacon Zhao's mouth twitched even more. That guy obviously didn't use his full strength. This is a sacred sect test. Can you Iron Bone disciples be a little more careful? The next one to test was Sima Zhongda. His control over his strength was much better than Cui Bujian's. With a light punch, he hit out 2,200 gene of strength. When other people tested, the higher the strength, the better. The Iron Bone disciples were trying their best to suppress their strength. This was really a weirdo among weirdos. The rule was 1,500 gene. As long as it was not lower than this, there was no difference between hitting 10,000 gene and hitting just right. Not to mention, there was a strength testing machine in the training room. Everyone tested their strength every few days and knew their strength like the back of their hand. There was no need to use the testing stone to test seriously. What was the Iron Bone's motto? Low-key, even more low-key. However, it was obviously a low-key test, but Deacon Zhao thought that it was definitely a super high-profile test. A casual punch with a strength of 2 to 3,000 gene. If it really exploded, how terrifying would it be? He couldn't think about it, he didn't dare to think about it. Bang! Bang! The Iron Bone disciples tested one by one as Deacon Zhao recorded. More than 10 minutes later, 450 disciples finished their certification. The lowest strength was 2,000 gene, which met the minimum requirement of 1,500 gene. Next, another 50 martial disciples were certified. Their strength also reached the standard. At that moment, Deacon Zhao was deeply shocked. The requirement to ascend from the 8th class to the 7th class was 50 martial disciples and 512th stage meridian opening. The Iron Bone certification was 500 martial disciples and 50 12th stage meridian opening. The numbers were directly reversed. Exaggerated, too exaggerated. Deacon Zhao had been certified for so many years, but he had never seen such a powerful 8th class sect. Sect leader Jun, he suppressed his shock and said, "Please test it. If your strength reaches 10,000 gene, you can pass the certification." Okay. Jun Changshao walked down and raised his fist. Bang! After testing the strength of the stone, it shattered on the spot and scattered all over the ground. Deacon Zhao and the other members were instantly dumbfounded. Jun Changshao said awkwardly, "Sorry, I didn't control my strength well and broke the testing stone." To be honest, the punch just now was very exciting, and he also had the intention to show off. However, he never expected that it would be shattered by himself. This was a testing stone, how could it be broken? Deacon Zhao brought an ordinary testing stone, which could bear a weight of less than 100,000 gene. After sect leader Jun broke through to the 7th grade martial master, even if he didn't use his full strength, a punch of his would be over 50,000 gene. It would be strange if it didn't shatter. Deacon Zhao opened his mouth wide in shock. Sect leader Jun's strength was definitely over 100,000 kilograms to shatter an ordinary testing stone with a single punch. This wasn't just a martial master, this was Wuzong. That's not right. Since it was Wuzong, why didn't it have that unique aura? Could it be that he was deliberately suppressing it? Wrong. Sect leader Jun wasn't Wuzong to begin with. He was only a 7th grade martial master. Deacon Zhao, do you have any more testing stones? There's no need for the test. Deacon Zhao said, Sect Master Jun's strength has met the requirements. As he spoke, he took out an exquisite jade tablet from his spatial ring and used a special method to draw the word 7 on it. He then handed it over and said with a smile, "Congratulations on your sect's promotion to the 7th rate." "Thank you." Jun Changshao took the tablet. Deacon Zhao said seriously, "Sect leader Jun, this Zhao's evaluation of your sect was wrong. It should have been 2nd rate. Another increase in armor." The members of the certification center behind were shocked. In the Falling Star continent, if a sect could get 2nd rate and develop steadily, not only would it become a 5th rate sect, it would also have a high chance of becoming a 4th rate sect. Terrifying, too terrifying. If they hadn't come with Deacon Zhao, they wouldn't have dared to imagine that Iron Bone, who was very unhappy yesterday, would be evaluated as second-rate. Was there a third-rate? Yes, there was, but it only existed in fourth-grade counties and above. A ninth-grade county actually had a new sect that was evaluated as second-rate. This was absolutely inconceivable. Ding! Congratulations to the host for upgrading the sect to the 7th rate. The reward is 500 achievement points and 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 120210000. Ding! Sect achievement points, 120010000. Ding! Sect contribution points overflow. Ding! Sect contribution points overflow. After the host upgrades the sect, the overflow will be automatically filled up. The system notifications rang in his ears one after another, making Jun Changshao feel refreshed. The sound of all the values being filled up and overflowing was definitely the most beautiful sound in the world. Sect Leader Jun. Deacon Zhao cupped his hands and said, "The sect certification has been completed. This Zhao will take his leave first." He needed to return to the certification center immediately and report his evaluation of Iron Bone to the headquarters so that it could be recorded in the records. Jun Changshao said, "Deacon Zhao, what are the requirements for upgrading from the 7th rate to the 6th rate?" According to the certification rules, the master of a 6th-rate sect must have the cultivation of Wuzong. The sect must have 10 martial masters, 500 martial disciples, and 1,000 12th-stage meridian opening cultivators. Deacon Zhao explained. Jun Changshao, there weren't many sects that met the requirements to upgrade to the 6th rate. It seemed that there was still a long way to go. That's not right. Jun Changshao said, "As far as I know, the sect leader of the Grand Spirit sect had just broken through to Wuzong not long ago. His sect was already a 6th rate long ago." Deacon Zhao explained, "The previous sect leader of the Grand Spirit sect had the cultivation of Wuzong. The sect was also certified by him." "I see." Jun Changshao understood. Once a sect had a high level, the next sect leader would take over. Even if the sect's level was low, it wouldn't drop. Deacon Zhao said, "Is there anything else, sect leader Jun?" "Nothing." "Then this Zhao will take his leave first." Jun Changshao sent him to the mountain gate and cupped his hands, "Have a safe journey." After sending Deacon Zhao off, he couldn't wait to open the system status panel and press the upgradable button next to the sect's construction. Ding! Sect construction upgraded to level 4. Ding! Sect members, contribution points, and achievement points increased. Ding! Sect's talisman pavilion opened. After the notification sounded, the system's data panel immediately changed. Sect name, Iron Bone Clan. Sect leader, Jun Changshao. Sect level, 7th rate. Sect construction, level 4. Sect functions, medicine refining pavilion, smithing pavilion, talisman pavilion. Sect cultivation technique, Yijin Jing, divine grade beginner level, cloud steps, high grade beginner level, sound transmission, mid grade high grade beginner level. Sect members, 100020000. Sect contribution points, 120220000. Sect achievement points, 2002000. Sect mission, sent to the Sect mission board. Sect main mission, within 100 years. Seeing that the upper limit only increased from 1,000 to 2,000, Jun Changshao was a bit disappointed. After all, the system said that he could buy mid-level store items when he was at level 4. However, any item in the mid-level store started at 1,000 contribution points. Even if he maxed it out, he could only buy 2 of them. What? The system said, "Does the host want to buy 20 of them in the mid-level store like he bought the molding house?" What? Jun Changshao said, "Is it illegal to even think about it?" Chapter 269. The system was rendered speechless by the host's words. After all, it wasn't illegal to think about it. Jun Changshao didn't care about this guy who kept attacking him. Instead, he tapped on the talisman pavilion. 7th rate, 4 levels up. These weren't as important as the new functions. Schwa. A small independent panel popped out, and a 3D projection of a Tai Chi pattern appeared. The alchemy pavilion was the pill furnace, and the forging pavilion was the forging table. This talisman pavilion had a Tai Chi pattern. Could it be a device for refining talismans? Sect leader Jun continued to look. When he saw the 3 talismans, his eyes lit up and he almost jumped up in excitement. The 3 talismans were respectively beginner grade strength increasing talisman, beginner grade insight talisman, beginner grade speed talisman. Lord Changshao often used the 2 talismans that were sold on the stage, so he could still treat them with a normal attitude. But the speed talisman made him so excited that he couldn't control himself. After all, it was a talisman from the novice gift bag. When he crushed it during the fight with AI Shanka, it was so fast that it left an afterimage for a long time. When he killed the 2 Wei brothers in the city lord's residence, he also relied on this talisman that hadn't expired yet. To be able to refine this kind of talisman in the talisman pavilion, not to mention fighting enemies, just traveling was much faster than riding the purple lightning tiger cub. Oh my god! Oh my god! Buddha Tathagata! I'm going to be rich. Don't get excited, calm down. The system said, you are the leader of a sect. You are the main character. Don't let the readers laugh at you. Ahaha. Ahahaha. Jun Changshao forgot himself and laughed while leaning on the door. Then, he squatted down and laughed. His laughter was like the 9527 in Tang Bohu's autumn fragrance. Second senior brother. Su Xiaoma, who was standing on the training ground, whispered, "What's wrong with the sect leader?" Li Qingyang said, "Maybe the sect leader is too excited to be promoted to the 7th rate. The sect leader is worried sick about the sect. It's understandable that he can't control his emotions after being promoted from the 8th rate to the 7th rate." Su Xiaoma said. So, Li Qingyang turned around and said seriously, "We have to work hard to cultivate and make the sect stronger. We can't let down the sect leader's nurturing." Yes. All the disciples said in unison. Jun Changshao squatted at the entrance and laughed heartily. Hundreds of disciples stood neatly in the martial arts practice field. Although the scene was a little funny, it was also quite heartwarming. He laughed wildly for a while. Sect leader Jun finally calmed down. He clicked on the introduction of the strength-increasing talisman and the refinement materials panel. His expression froze. The introduction said, "After crushing this item, one's strength would be doubled." No. The one sold in the shop could increase the price by 5 times, but this one only increased the price by 2 times. The system said, although it has shrunk, the usage time has increased. It can last for 120 minutes without any side effects. Jun Changshao was on the verge of breaking down. If he had a choice, he would rather increase the multiplier and shorten the time limit. After all, he was so strong that he could absolutely suppress his opponent. A few seconds or minutes would be enough to end the battle. The system said, "You don't need to spend any contribution points. Are you still not satisfied?" "I'm satisfied." Jun Changshao said, "Of course I'm satisfied." As long as he didn't spend any contribution points, even a 30% to 50% increase in strength was better than nothing. Moreover, after mass production, he could give it to the disciples. When facing a strong opponent or danger, they could crush it and use it. Jun Changshao looked down. The required materials were 0-2 middle 9th grade crystal cores, 0/20 low 9th grade crystal cores. The middle 9th grade crystal cores were very expensive. Below, there was a small line of word supplementary materials, 66,991 low-grade healing pills. Jun Changshao was stunned and broke down. I can understand using crystal cores to refine talismans, but what the hell is a supplementary material called healing pills? The system explained, the talisman refining materials in the talisman pavilion have a meticulous scientific basis. Healing pills and strength increase had nothing to do with each other, but they actually had a meticulous basis. This was really scientific. Still, are you bullying me for being uncultured? Jun Changshao continued to click on the talisman of insight. This was no different from the shop. The required materials were of a higher grade, 5 middle 9th grade crystal cores, 10 middle 1st grade crystal cores, and finally the supplementary materials required 1 low grade body shaping pill. Jun Changshao held his head and said frantically, "Don't tell me, this also has a meticulous scientific basis." Yes. Jun Changshao almost vomited blood. After consuming the body-shaping pill, it could improve the physical body and increase strength. It was still somewhat understandable that it was used as a supplementary material for the strength-increasing talisman. But to add this into the talisman of insight, how scientific was it to create this? Phew! Jun Changshao took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and opened the talisman of Gale again. As expected of the finale. There were a total of 4 materials, namely Wind Element 5th Grade Crystal Core, 0/1, Wind Element 1st Grade Crystal Core, 0/2, Wind Element 9th Grade Crystal Core, 0/5. Finally, it was the supplementary material Cyclone Pill. Alright. There must be a meticulous scientific basis for this. I'm really convinced. After looking at the 3 types of talismans, Jun Changshao understood that the main material for refining talismans was the crystal core, which was the main ingredient for refining talismans. Especially the talisman of Gale. All 3 crystal cores were of the wind element, so collecting and refining them would undoubtedly be very difficult. With such a heaven-defying speed, if he could easily refine them, wouldn't he be using a speed cheat? I can buy the materials for the strength-increasing talisman and mass-produce some. The materials for the talisman of insight also needed to be sold. However, this thing couldn't be used to comprehend the battle techniques in the shop, so it didn't have much meaning. He could just casually refine a dozen of them. As for the talisman of Gale, Jun Changshao definitely wanted to refine it. However, in his opinion, even if the 8 cities in Qinyang County had wind element crystal cores, they might not meet the requirements for refining. Right. Thinking of something, he asked, "Is the Gale Wolf's crystal core of the wind element?" "Yes." The system replied. Ah. Jun Changshao almost banged his head against the pillar. Back then, he killed quite a number of Gale Wolves in Death Valley. Although he sold them to AI Shanya, he bought them back and used them to mutate the fire dragon. Crepe Myrtle. My fault, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have wasted it all for the sake of mutating. All the crystal cores were used to hatch and mutate the fire dragon. Jun Changshao could only accept reality and personally made a trip to Qinyang City. As expected. There wasn't even a single wind element crystal core in the crystal core shop. Jun Changshao shook his head. He could only choose the other 2 materials. He had gathered 10 strength-increasing talismans and 2 talismans of insight. How much? A total of 5 million taels. Sect leader Jun, who was worth more than 100 million, didn't care about this small amount of money. He bought it and returned to the sect. Same old rules. On the way, he started to refine a 1-button machine. However, after returning to the sect, he didn't refine a single talisman. The speed was even slower than a middle-grade healing pill. Jun Changshao comforted himself, the talisman's price is high, so it's understandable that it's slow. Sitting in the study, he opened the shop. He started to think about whether he should refresh the remaining 202 points or go to the middle grade shop. Forget it. Mid-grade items are too expensive. I'll use them to refresh first. If I'm lucky, maybe I can. While he was thinking, Jun Changshao had already refreshed the beginner shop. The first item came into view. It was called Array Enhancer. He clicked on the details. Item, Array Enhancer. Description, a treasure that strengthens all kinds of arrays. Effect, defensive formations increase defense power by 50%. Offensive formations increase attack power by 20%. Spiritual power formations increase spiritual power by 100%. Weakness, can only be used on beginner-grade arrays in the shop. Price, 200 contribution points. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. I have beginner-grade arrays and sect-protecting arrays. This thing can increase strength. Recommended purchase price, 5 stars. System, not only did the host learn how to answer first, he also learned how to steal my lines. P.S. Recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, all kinds of requests. For updates today, all at once. Chapter 270. Jun Changshao spent 200 contribution points to buy the array strengthening device. The elementary disciple's spirit chi array was a type of spirit chi array. With this item, the strength of one's spirit chi would increase by 100%. With so many disciples in the sect, the supply of spirit gathering pills would definitely be insufficient. At this time, cultivating inside the spirit chi array was undoubtedly the best choice. After all, it only cost 1 contribution point a day. Buzz. Placing the array strengthening device inside the spirit chi array, the spirit chi gathered was 3 times that of the outside world. Although it was only a 1-fold increase, it would undoubtedly allow the disciples to absorb spirit chi faster to increase their cultivation. Sect leader Jun made the arrangements. The new disciples trained their bodies in the training room while they entered the array to cultivate in batches. After they were done, they entered the training tower and began their routine of tempering their bodies and speed. As for the 3rd floor, Jun Changshao planned to explore it when he could easily run around a group of ferocious beasts for 2 hours. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and Yi Xingchen were still cultivating on the 1st level. They would not go to the 2nd level until they had tempered their bodies to the maximum. Su Xiaomua and Li Fei were more focused on the 2nd level. After all, it was helpful for their movement techniques. Song Xianzhou had only been in the sect for a month. Although he also wanted to enter the training tower, he could only continue to build his body in the shaping room. He cherished being able to stand up from his paralysis and worked very hard on his cultivation. In the Iron Bone sect, the genius halo would be weakened. If one wanted to become stronger, they would have to work hard continuously. If they slacked off even a little, they might be surpassed by ordinary fellow disciples of the same sect. A few days later, the disciples completed the remaining sect missions. Their achievement points had increased to 500 points and their contribution points to 1287 points. What should I buy? I think the Qi Gathering Elixir is the best. That's right. We don't need weapons for now. Let's buy the Qi Gathering Elixir. Many disciples obtained their own contribution points after completing the sect missions and bought the Qi Gathering Elixir from the vending machine in the market. Although they did not have many Qi Gathering Elixirs, with the Spirit Qi Array and the weakened version of the Qi Gathering Elixir, their cultivation increased quickly. 10 days later, the 400 new disciples, with the exception of Yao Menjing, who had not come into contact with martial arts, had all opened a 12th stage meridian opening. Some of the disciples even relied on the revolving Qi pill to become a martial disciple. It had only been about 50 days since he had entered the sect. Many disciples who were at the 1st level of the channel opening realm were able to break through to the 12th level. The Falling Star continent was very big. It was divided into 12 continents, which was why it was called the 12 prefectures. 9 of the prefectures were connected to each other. As for the other 3 prefectures, because they were separated by the endless sea, they did not have any interactions with each other. It was as if they were isolated from the world. Every state had its own culture, and its area was much larger than Earth. It was like an independent world. Other than special states, most states did not have countries. They were divided into counties, cities, and towns. For example, Southwest Yangzhou, which was closest to the southwest, had 200 to 300 counties within its borders, and each county had a population of more than 10 million. The Azure Sun County was one of the most inconspicuous ninth-grade counties in the southwestern Yangzhou. Not to mention southwest Yangzhou, even in the entire Falling Star continent, they were at the bottom of the food chain. Due to its geographical location, southwest Yangzhou was not considered to be very strong in the 9 prefectures. It was at the lower middle level. Southwest Yangzhou did not have a country, but each county had its own government, which was equivalent to a small regime. Among them, the strongest was the third-grade Heavenly Mandate County. The main city of the Heavenly Mandate County was the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City. It was considered the capital of southwest Yangzhou because it was the only city in the state that had reached the imperial city level. That was right. Counties were divided into different grades and grades. Cities were also divided. To reach the imperial city level, not only did it have to be strong overall, but it also had to have a certain number of martial kings. Other counties and cities in southwest Yangzhou also had martial kings, but the number did not meet the requirements. They could only be named as cities, not imperial city. Above the imperial city were the imperial city, the sacred city, and the imperial city. As the name suggested, the imperial city and the sacred city must have a sufficient number of Wu Huang and Wu Sheng. In the mainstream 9 prefectures of the Falling Star continent, there were at least 99 imperial cities. However, the imperial city and the sacred city were relatively rare. As for the imperial city, it had only appeared once since ancient times, and that was tens of thousands of years ago. According to the rules set by the ancestors, it could only be called an imperial city with 3 or more martial emperors. There were only 9 martial emperors in the Falling Star continent now. It was impossible to gather 3 martial emperors in a city. It was a bit off topic. The camera turned to the imperial city of the Heavenly Mandate Sect Certification Hall. At this moment, a white-haired old man was sitting at the head of the hall. His skinny fingers were tapping rhythmically on the tea table. His name was Yi Tianjian. He was the head of the certification hall in southwest Yangzhou. On both sides of the head of the table sat 4 old men in gold-trimmed robes. They were the elders of the certification hall. Although their eyes were cloudy, they had a strong aura. It was obvious that they were experts. Everyone. After a while, Yi Tianjian said, "What do you think of the news brought by Deacon Zhao of Qingyang County?" An elder said, "It's unbelievable that a sect in a 9th-grade county was given a 2nd-grade evaluation." Another person said, "I have never seen a sect in a 9th-grade county that has the potential to reach 2nd grade since I became an elder of the Yangzhou headquarters. Moreover," he paused and said, "that Iron Bone sect has just entered the 7th grade from the 8th grade. Another elder asked, "Could it be a misjudgment? Zhao Xingming has been a deacon in the Qingyang County branch for 30 to 50 years. The elder beside him said, "Although he has no outstanding achievements, he has been diligent in his duties. There shouldn't be a mistake." Elder Zhou, if this old man remembers correctly, you were the one who promoted Zhao Xingming, right? An elder chuckled. Elder Zhou frowned and said, "Elder Zhen, what do you mean?" Elder Zhen said, "From what I know, Zhao Xingming signed an agreement with the 100 Sect Alliance in Qingyang County without permission. He has to provide an alliance certificate. This is extremely absurd. There was no such thing as an airtight wall." What Deacon Zhao had done in the Azure Sun County had reached this elder's ears. Elder Zhou's face was extremely ugly. He was the one who promoted Zhao Xingming. If the head of the training hall looked into this matter, he would definitely be implicated. Despicable fellow. Was his brain kicked by a donkey? Why would he sign an agreement with the 100 Sect Alliance without permission? Elder Zhen's words caused the atmosphere in the hall to become serious. The other two elders did not say anything. Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen had always disliked each other, so it was normal for them to argue with each other when they were discussing. Yi Tianjian said, "We are discussing official matters. As for Zhao Xingming's matter, let's talk about it another day." Elder Zhen cupped his hands and said, "Head of the training hall, Deacon Zhao might have accepted bribes. I believe that the Iron Bone's second-grade evaluation should be denied." Elder Zhen. Elder Zhou said indifferently, "Without evidence, please do not accuse a deacon who has been diligent in his duties. This will disappoint the deacons of the other counties." Humph. Elder Zhen said, "With the shady business that Zhao Xingming has done with the 100 Sect Alliance, I find it hard to believe that he would be diligent in his duties and not break the law." He was going all out. Elder Zhou was not going to admit defeat and was about to retort. But before he could say anything, Yi Tianjian said, "Send someone to Qingyang County to verify again." "Isn't that enough?" "That's right." One of the elders who was watching the show said, "I also feel that it is fairer to send someone from the headquarters to verify again." Elder Zhen said, "Head of the training hall, I am willing to go." "I will go too." Elder Zhou said. The other two elders shook their heads. Sending two elders from the headquarters to verify for a sect in a 9th-grade county was already a great treatment. Chapter 271. Looking up from the foot of Iron Bone Mountain, one could see that there were clouds and mist halfway up the mountain. This was the spiritual energy released by the 200,000 medicinal herbs after they gradually matured. Although it couldn't be compared to that of a big sect, it was undoubtedly a good start. Sect Master Elder Wei, who was standing on the boulder, pointed at the long mountain range and said, "As long as we continue to plant medicinal herbs, Iron Bone Mountain will definitely become a treasure land with abundant spiritual energy. We have to spend money." Jun Changshao said. Elder Wei said, "How can we improve the environment if we don't invest? Besides, Iron Bone Mountain is full of spiritual energy, and the quality of the medicinal herbs cultivated will be high. The effect of using them to refine pills will also be more obvious." "That makes sense." Jun Changshao said, "I will continue to purchase seeds. I will have to trouble Elder Wei and the medicine hall to plant them. This is part of my duty," Old Man Wei said. Joining Iron Bone and becoming the medicine hall master, everything he did was definitely for the sect. "When can these medicinal herbs be collected?" Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei said, "Wait for another 2 days and let them release more heaven and earth attributes." "Okay." Jun Changshao handed over the sect's affairs to Li Qingyang and went to Huyang City to buy 400,000 high-quality seeds from the AI family in one go. Patriarch AI Shanka was puzzled. "Sect Master Jun bought so many medicinal herb seeds, can you plant them all? If I'm not wrong." AI Shanka said, "Sect Master Jun bought so many seeds to improve the spiritual energy environment of Iron Bone Mountain. Planting spiritual energy-type medicinal herbs to improve the heaven and earth attributes of a mountain was very common in the Starfall continent." AI Shanka was speechless. That nameless mountain has almost no spiritual energy. Spending so much money to transform it, it's better to choose another mountain. Indeed. Instead of spending money and effort to transform it, it was better to choose another mountain. Even if the spiritual energy was weak, it was still better than opening up Iron Bone Mountain. Jun Changshao naturally knew that he could choose another mountain and move the sect there. However, wouldn't it be more challenging to start off as a 9th-rate sect in a 9th-rate county and slowly develop into the strongest sect? After the system learned of his thoughts, it once said, "The host has a tendency to self-abuse." A few days later, Elder Wei collected all 200,000 mature herbs. After a round of distribution, Jun Changshao collected more than 30,000 sets of materials to refine the qi gathering pill. This felt great. Opening the pill refinement pavilion, the medicinal herbs were automatically allocated, and Zhang Xian decisively began refining. It would definitely take some time to refine more than 30,000 qi-amassing pills, but Jun Changshao felt that it was like the sound of nature when he heard the tinkling sounds. 2 days later, all the pills were refined. Looking at the pile of energy-gathering pills in his interspatial ring, Jun Changshao felt that he was very happy now. It was a pity. Because it was the first batch of medicinal herbs to be planted, the effect of the pill was only 10 times. Jun Changshao was already very satisfied. After all, more than 30,000 qi-amassing pills were enough for the disciples. Furthermore, Elder Wei had already led people to start the second planting. The ecological environment would be improved, the maturity period would be shortened, and the quality would be greatly improved. It could be said that, as long as there were enough funds and seeds, it would form a virtuous cycle. The ecological environment would slowly change, and there would be no shortage of energy-gathering pills. Thinking of the lingering spiritual energy of the Iron Bone Mountain and the endless supply of energy-gathering pills, Jun Changshao immediately felt comfortable all over. It would not be difficult for him to go up to the 5th floor in one go. Sect leader Li Luoqiu walked into the main hall and said, "I just received news that the Southwest Yangzhou Certification Headquarters sent 2 elders to Qingyang City to accompany City Lord Xia and Deacon Zhao to my Iron Bone." Jun Changshao said, "What does the certification headquarters mean by sending people over?" "In my opinion," Li Luoqiu deduced, "our Iron Bone was evaluated as the second best, which alarmed the certification headquarters. This time, the elders should be carefully examined." Sect leader Li Qingyang said, "Deacon Sun is here to visit." Jun Changshao, who had just received the news, was not surprised, so he said, "Invite him in." Li Qingyang said, "Deacon Sun brought 2 elders with strong auras, at least Wuzong cultivation. Could it be that they were here to cause trouble?" The system said, "The host not only has a tendency to self-abuse, but also a tendency to be persecuted. Get lost." Li Qingyang said, "City Lord Xia also accompanied them. He is very respectful to the 2 elders. In this disciple's opinion, they should be important figures. In that case, isn't it a bit rash for me not to personally go out to welcome them?" Jun Changshao said. Li Luoqiu said, "I think, for the sake of City Lord Xia, there is nothing wrong with the sect leader going out to welcome them. This disciple thinks so too." Li Qingyang said. "Good." Jun Changshao stood up and said, "For the sake of City Lord Xia, I will personally go out to welcome them." Humph! Elder Zhen, who was standing outside the Iron Bone sect, said impatiently, "Is it that slow to report? Still, the Iron Bone sect leader is so arrogant, why didn't he come out to welcome them personally? As an elder of the Southwest Yangzhou Certification Department, of course he would welcome a sect of his own accord." Xie Guanquan said with a smile, "Elder Zhen suddenly came and did not inform us in advance. Sect leader Jun must not have been prepared, so please forgive us for any neglect." Our lovely City Lord Xie was always on Jun Changshao's side. Of course, his efforts were not in vain. Jun Changshao, who originally did not plan to go out to welcome them, came out because of him. Creak. The red door opened. Jun Changshao stepped out, without even looking at the 2 elders of the certification department, and smiled, "City Lord Xia, how come you have time to visit my Iron Bone?" "Ah." City Lord Xia was a little confused, and said, "Sect leader Jun, I am accompanying 2 elders of the Southwest Yangzhou Certification Department." The words Southwest Yangzhou Certification Department were especially loud, obviously hinting that the people who came were important people, and he must not be negligent. "So it's the elders of the certification department." Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said politely, "Sorry for the lack of manners." Elder Zhen said lightly, "Sect leader Jun is really arrogant to make me wait outside for so long." Elder Zhou said, Sect leader June still has to deal with sect affairs, and can't stand at the door waiting to welcome him every day. Someone shouldn't be so calculative. Look. They were arguing again. Elder Zhen said lightly, Elder Zhou, this time, if the Iron Bone sect's potential does not reach the second grade, there will be a big problem. I believe in Deacon Zhao's evaluation, how can there be a problem? Elder Zhou said. As the two of them argued, the atmosphere became more solemn. This made City Lord Xie, who was at the side, feel a little awkward. Deacon Zhao's back was covered in cold sweat. Elder Zhen's visit this time was obviously against him. If the Iron Bone sect's potential did not reach the second grade, they would be in big trouble. At that moment, he suddenly had a scary thought. Could it be that those martial disciples with strong auras who helped the Iron Bone sect certification were hired by Jun Changshao? Chapter 272. It wasn't as if cheating had never happened before. Although it was exposed in the end and they were severely punished by the certification hall, there would still be people taking the risk every once in a while. If the Iron Bone sect hired someone and they suddenly came for a new certification today, all the disciples would turn into crooked melons. Not only would his career be ruined, his life would also be in danger. Thinking about this, Deacon Zhao's cold sweat flowed even faster, and his heart became even more anxious. Everyone. Jun Changshao said, it's windy outside, please come in. Elder Zhen was the first to leave. Elder Zhou and City Lord Xie walked in one after another. Deacon Zhao walked in and said softly, Sect leader Jun, my life is in your hands, I hope that there won't be any accidents during the second certification. At this time, he wanted to kneel down and cry for the second grade. Jun Changshao didn't understand, how can there be any accidents? Deacon Zhao said, what I mean is, please treat the certification seriously and not treat it as a game. Jun Changshao followed him in and said softly, Deacon Zhao, if my Iron Bone sect doesn't get the second grade, will you be in trouble? Deacon Zhao said softly, it will be very troublesome. I understand. Jun Changshao said, I will definitely make the disciples treat the second certification seriously, but, he paused, Deacon Zhao and Alliance Master Qin are very close, and Jun and Alliance Master Qin also have a grudge, this will be a little awkward. Sect leader Jun clearly remembered how arrogant this person was in the certification hall and how he made things difficult for him. If not for Elder Ma's appearance and certification as an 8th grade sect, he would have to run to another county. Deacon Zhao's expression changed. He hurriedly lowered his voice, Sect leader Jun, I only have an agreement with Alliance Master Qin, we are not close in private, please don't misunderstand. At this time, even if he was sworn brothers with Alliance Master Qin, he had to cut ties with him, after all, his life was at stake. Jun Changshao said, Jun can tell, so I hope that Deacon Zhao will be more careful with the 100 Sect Alliance certification in the future. This was definitely sarcastic. This was definitely telling him to make things difficult for the 100 Sect Alliance. Deacon Zhao affirmed, definitely, definitely. Elder Zhen, who was walking in front, stopped in his tracks. He turned around and said, the two of you are whispering at the back. Could it be that you are colluding to fake it? Jun Changshao said, my Iron Bone has always proven everything with my strength. I never lie. Strength? Elder Zhen said faintly, you can only prove it through verification. You can't just talk about it. Oh, shit. This old man doesn't seem to like my Iron Bone. Elder Zhen wasn't unhappy with Iron Bone. He was unhappy with Elder Zhou. In his opinion, if Xiao Xingming accepted bribes in private, he must have colluded with Iron Bone. Then, it must have something to do with Elder Zhou. Sigh. The infighting in the adult world was a little complicated. Iron Bone had been wronged. Because of the grudge between the two elders, he had been shot for no reason. If it was any other sect, they wouldn't mind being shot, but was Jun Changshao the kind of person who would take a bullet for nothing? He wasn't. So, since Elder Zhen was unhappy with him, he had to make him unhappy too. Elder Jun Changshao said, your certification headquarters came to my iron bone for the second time. Could it be that you have doubts about the previous certification? Sect Master Jun and Deacon Zhao should know whether there are doubts or not, right? Elder Zhen said coldly. They didn't come with good intentions. Jun Changshao said, you mean to say that my iron bone and Deacon Zhao colluded to fake the Sect certification? We will know whether it is fake or not after the new certification. At this point, Elder Zhen's expression froze. Because he had already seen the majestic Sect's main hall. Elder Zhou, who had been holding back his words, also had a look of surprise. As an important person from the imperial city, he had seen buildings more luxurious than Iron Bone's main hall. But it was rare for a 7th or 8th-rate sect to be able to build something like this. City Lord Xia also opened his eyes wide. Oh my god! Sect Master Jun's main hall was so luxurious. Humph, Elder Zhen said indifferently, building the main hall so luxurious, even if the sect's strength doesn't increase, it will only be on paper. Elder Zhen's words are wrong. Elder Zhou seized the opportunity and retorted, Sect Master Jun built the main hall so luxurious. It means that you have the ambition to make the sect stronger. That's right. Jun Changshao said, since I have established the sect, Jun naturally wants to make Iron Bone stronger. That is why I built the main hall so that it won't have to be rebuilt in the future. Elder Zhou raised his thumb and said, the falling star continent lacks ambitious young people like Sect Master Jun. Elder Zhen wouldn't believe that there was no relationship between the two of them when he praised Jun Changshao like this. He said coldly, it is good to have dreams, but if you have unrealistic fantasies or take advantage of opportunities to take the wrong path, you are just deceiving yourself. Damn it! Is this guy so sure that my iron bone is fake? Good. Good. I will gather all the disciples here and test them seriously. I will show you what it means to prove yourself with strength. Jun Changshao wanted to keep a low profile, but since the other party was so sure that he was fake, he had to make a big show of it. Qingyang. He shouted, gather all the disciples who participated in the test last time and let this elder test them again. Yes. Before long, all 550 disciples were gathered in the training field. Deacon Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. These disciples were the ones who had been tested previously. Even if they were really hired by Sect Master Jun, as long as they were still here, they would definitely be second grade. Not bad, not bad. Elder Zhou praised the Iron Bone disciples. Judging from their auras, they are all good seedlings. As an elder of the headquarters, his judgment was definitely sharper than Deacon Zhao's. Elder Zhen said indifferently, although these disciples are not bad, they are at most first grade. Deacon Zhao giving them second grade is a bit too much. Deacon Zhao said, reporting to Elder Zhen, this subordinate gave a second-place evaluation after the Iron Bone Sect's disciple test. Is that so? Elder Zhen said indifferently, then let's start the test again. As he spoke, he summoned the testing stone and said, Sect Master Jun, you should know the rules. Please test the strength of the disciples one by one. Jun Changshao said, disciples, listen up. These two elders are from the headquarters of Southwest Yangzhou. They are here to test my Iron Bone disciples for the second time. Test them seriously. Yes. All the disciples shouted in unison. Swoosh! Cui Bujian was the first to step out. He gathered the spiritual energy in his cyclone and punched fiercely. This time, he was absolutely serious. He did not deliberately suppress his strength. Boom! His strength was displayed as 13,000 jin. Ga! Deacon Zhao was dumbfounded. This disciple's strength was only 3,000 jin during the last test. The difference between 13,000 and 3,000 was too big. Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen were also a bit confused. After all, 10,000 Jin was comparable to a normal rank 1 martial master. Boom! The next to step out was Sima Zhongda. He punched the testing stone and his strength was displayed as 14,000 Jin. Boom! 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 Li Tian, Yang Yuhua, and the others stepped out one after another. These martial disciples who entered the sect earlier all had strength above 10,000 Jin. Until Yang Kong and the other new disciples tested. Because they had just entered the martial disciple realm from rank 12, their strength was around 4,000 Jin. However, it was still much higher than the test value. Deacon Zhao's heart was in a perilous situation. The last 50 disciples were only at rank 12 in the last test. How did they all become martial disciples in such a short period of time? Boom! Jun Changshao punched again and the normal testing stone shattered again. Elder Zhen and Elder Zhou's eyes widened. City Lord Xie almost lost his balance and fell to the ground in shock. One punch to shatter the testing stone. This strength was definitely above 100,000 Jin. A 7th grade sect leader could produce a strength comparable to a rank 1 Wuzong. This was simply too terrifying. Elder Zhen, right? Jun Changshao retracted his fist and turned around. He said indifferently, Jun and the 550 disciples have finished testing. Do they meet the previous evaluation? It doesn't fit. Elder Zhou was the first to speak. Oh. Jun Changshao was surprised. Elder Zhou said solemnly, based on the performance of sect leader Jun and the disciples, they should be in the top 3. Top 3. City Lord Xie's body swayed and he staggered back 2 steps. His eyes were filled with shock and horror. Chapter 273. The top 3 sects could only be found in the 4th grade counties and above. That place was full of talents and experts. Naturally, their potential was limitless. But today, at this very moment, after seeing the Iron Bone Disciples test, Elder Zhou's evaluation of the top 3 was undoubtedly shocking. One had to know that this was only a 7th-rate sect. One had to know that this was an inconspicuous 9th-grade county. Hearing Elder Zhou's evaluation, Mayor Xie was so shocked that his body trembled. His eyes were filled with horror. After knowing that the Iron Bone Disciples were certified as 2nd grade, he was unable to control himself. Now that they were tested again and rated as 3rd grade, this was definitely a blow to his soul. I have a top 3 sect in my territory. Heavens! This was too unreal, too unbelievable. If not for his status as the mayor, Xie Guangquan would have raised his hand to slap his own face to confirm whether this was real or not. A top 3 sect in a 9th grade county. It was indeed very shocking. If this spread to the Jianghu, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Elder Zhen. Elder Zhou said, do you have any objections to this old man's evaluation? Elder Zhen was silent for a moment, then said, no objections. Although he always went against Elder Zhou, he still had to give the Iron Bone Disciples a top 3 grade certification. Why? Because there were at least 50 disciples who could produce a strength of 10,000 Jin that was comparable to a 1st grade martial master. They were only martial disciples. Under the circumstances of a low-level martial master, their potential was definitely limitless. They definitely deserved a top 3 grade. In fact, if the Iron Bone Disciples were given a few more months, they would be able to produce a strength of a martial master at the martial disciple level. After all, there were body-shaping pills, shaping rooms, and training pagoda. Deacon Zhao was also stunned for a while. It turned out that the Iron Bone Disciples were so scary when they were serious. It turned out that he had underestimated them. Elder Zhen. Elder Zhou said, thank you for your doubts. Otherwise, the certification center would have recognized the wrong person. These words were, Elder Zhen's face immediately turned red, as if he had been slapped hard. They didn't find out that it was fake, but they found out that it was a top 3 sect. This situation was a little awkward. Elder Zhou cupped his hands and said, "Sect leader Jun, we have to return to the headquarters tonight. We won't disturb you." Iron Bone being rated as top 3 was a big matter. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Two elders, my Iron Bone sect has just started. The sect's first motto is to keep a low profile. Please don't make this matter public." How could it be called keeping a low profile if he made his disciples take the test seriously? Mayor Xie was speechless. Elder Zhou was a little stunned. Even if the other sects had been certified as a triple B, they would publicize it wantonly to raise their sect's reputation. The Iron Bone sect actually had to keep a low profile after being certified as one of the top 3 sections. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Would you like to stay for a meal before leaving?" Unable to refuse such hospitality, everyone stayed for a meal. Then, they ate until their faces were almost covered in tears. The two elders had eaten a lot of delicacies, but after eating Lu Wancher's food, they realized that what they ate before was just plain tea. Even a 7th-rate sect had such a good chef. No wonder their disciples were so strong. After eating and drinking, Elder Zhou waved his hand and said, "Sect leader Jun, we will take our leave first." Jun Changshao personally sent them to the door. Since he was the head of a sect, he naturally had to be elegant. If he didn't send them off, it would only give people a feeling of arrogance. Living in another world, you could act cool, but you couldn't be brainless. "Thank you, City Lord." Jun Changshao said, "Why aren't you leaving?" Xie Guankuan said with a serious expression, "Sect leader Jun, to be honest, I haven't eaten my fill." Jun Changshao almost fell. Our lovely City Lord Xie ate another meal in the cafeteria before returning to the main topic. "Sect leader Jun, under your leadership, Iron Bone has undergone earth-shaking changes in just a few months. It was definitely not flattery. In the past, Iron Bone was the most inferior sect in his eyes. Since the 100 sect recruitment, it had become unstoppable. It was really unexpected for Xie Guankuan. Previously, because of the destruction of the Spirit Spring sect, he did not hesitate to fall out with Alliance Master Qin because he felt that Jun Changshao was a daring little guy with character. Jun Changshao said modestly, "It's just the beginning, there's still a long way to go." City Lord Xie said, "In my opinion, sect leader Jun's sect is like a sleeping dragon coiled around Iron Bone Mountain. The day it wakes up is the time to soar." This sentence touched Jun Changshao. Because, the country in his previous life was described as an eastern dragon, slowly awakening after decades of development. One day, the dragon's roar will resound throughout the sky and earth. My country, my home. I don't know if I can go back in this life. If there is a possibility of changing the name, he may consider changing the sect to Wuxia, to remind himself that although he has transmigrated to another world, he is still a Wuxia soul. City Lord Xie said again, "It is a great fortune for my Qingyang city to have such a sect with unlimited potential." Jun Changshao said, "Thank you, City Lord, for your praise." Xie Guankuan chatted for a while and then set off to leave. When he walked to the foot of the mountain, he looked up at the mountain that was already lingering with spiritual energy, and said with a dignified look, "Sect leader Jun, please develop well. The 3.6 million people of Qingyang City will be deeply proud of the existence of Iron Bone. 3.6 million people, I'm being represented again, but I'm happy." In City Lord Xie's heart, Iron Bone was the hope of Qingyang City. As the saying goes, when a man achieves the Tao, his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. Sooner or later, the sect will be full of glory because of its strength. Because Jun Changshao wanted to keep a low profile, City Lord Xie returned to Qingyang City and buried the news of Iron Bone being rated as one of the top 3 in his heart. It was obviously a big matter for the city, but he couldn't say it out loud. This was undoubtedly very painful. The head of the certification headquarters was even more painful. A top 3 sect with unlimited potential appeared in a 9th grade county. This kind of news must be announced to the public to make the county famous. However, since Iron Bone chose to keep a low profile, he could only record it and not announce it to the public. Head Elder Zhou said, in this old man's opinion, sect leader Jun is worried that his reputation will attract unnecessary trouble, so he chose to keep a low profile. Yi Tianjian shook his head and said, the top 3 sects have special protection from the certification headquarters. He chose not to announce it to the public, which is equivalent to giving up this right. Ah. There is such a thing. If sect leader Jun knew, he would definitely break down. I'm fucking keeping a low profile because I'm worried that people are afraid of being famous, pigs are afraid of being fat. In the end, the top 3 sects have the protection of the certification headquarters. If I knew this would happen, I would have acted high profile. Chapter 274. Jun Changshao didn't care much about the evaluation of the top 3. So, he continued to train as usual. He continued to train and instruct his disciples as usual. In his opinion, the most important thing was to develop Iron Bone into the strongest sect on the falling star continent and remove the time bomb that was bound to its soul. Sigh. Li Luoqiu said, Sect Master chose to keep a low profile and missed the opportunity to make the sect famous. It's a pity. Jun Changshao sipped his tea and said, as long as Iron Bone is strong, there will be many more opportunities to make a name for ourselves. We don't lack this opportunity. Li Luoqiu said, what I mean is, if the outside world knows that our sect is rated as top 3, it will definitely attract many outstanding youths to sign up. Same. Jun Changshao said, it will also attract endless challenges from many sections. Li Luoqiu thought for a while and said, that's true. On the falling star continent, many people would take the initiative to challenge martial artists of higher realms, either to prove their strength or to fight for a position. There were also forces that were bored enough to challenge high-ranked and highly evaluated sections. Iron Bone was rated as top 3. Once the news spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. A top 3 sect in a 9th grade county. Many forces would definitely have doubts and come to challenge them. Iron Bone had just started and needed to develop slowly. It would definitely be very helpless to deal with challenges from various forces every day. Iron Bone disciples were deeply proud of their sect being rated as top 3, but they also worked even harder to cultivate because they couldn't be a burden. Just like that. The sect's martial cultivation style became stronger. With a sufficient supply of medicinal pills, Jun Changshao did not lack resources for the time being, so he focused on his own cultivation. 7th grade sect. This was only the second step. There were still 6th grade sects and even higher sects waiting to be surpassed. As the sect master, Jun Changshao had to improve his realm regardless of whether he was recognized by the certification center or not. At the beginning of the month, the AI family continued to hold the auction. After it was over, Master AI personally delivered the money, seeds, and medicinal herbs. After refining quite a few more pills, Jun Changshao murmured, I can't keep giving them out. I have to set up a pill pavilion and let the disciples collect them themselves. The other sects all had their own alchemy distribution organizations and arranged for their elders. If a disciple wanted to receive an elixir, it was either based on their contribution or their cultivation base. Because there were no elders in Iron Bone, Jun Changshao opened the elixir pavilion, and the members of the medicine hall were temporarily responsible for distributing the elixirs. Of course, they wouldn't give it to just anyone. After all, they didn't have enough resources to sustain it for a long time. Jun Changshao also set the rules that disciples could receive a certain number of energy-gathering pills per month based on their rank. As for the body sculpting pills, meridian unlocking pills, and chi revolving pills, they were free to take them. In this way, the new disciples did not need Jun Changshao to distribute the pills, and they could go to the pill pavilion to collect them. The medicinal pill pavilion was just the beginning. Jun Changshao calculated that when there were enough ores to refine more weapons, he would set up a weapon pavilion and let the disciples who contributed to the sect receive them themselves. Lu Qianxian leaned against the door of the main hall and said indifferently, "Under the sect master's management, the sect is becoming more and more comprehensive. That's a must." Jun Changshao said. After a few months of development, if there were no changes, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? However, Lu Qianxian said coldly, compared to the real big sects, there's still a big gap. Jun Changshao said, no one can become a fatty in one go, so don't rush, take it slow. Lu Qianxian did not say anything, turned around and left. This woman was still as cold as ever. The disciples received the corresponding elixirs. They were either cultivating in the spiritual power array or tempering their bodies in the training room or the training tower. Jun Changshao, who had arranged everything, continued to cultivate and break through to the 8th grade martial master realm. Unfortunately, as the realm increased, the difficulty of cultivation also increased. Even with the high multiplier qi gathering pills, it would take at least more than a month. The development of the sect had to be done slowly. Cultivation would definitely have to be done step by step. Just like that, a month passed peacefully. During this period, a daily strength test was held, and the disciples who improved faster also received corresponding rewards. The 4th batch of medicinal herbs in the medicinal garden had also matured under the careful cultivation of Elder Wei and the members. They had also provided Sect Master Jun with many high multiplier qi gathering pills. What he cared about the most was the 200,000 medicinal herbs planted around the sect. Once they matured again, not only could they replenish a large number of pills, but they could also make the iron-boned mountain spiritual energy even better. Half a month later, the 2nd batch of medicinal herbs had matured. Because they had been planted before, the growth cycle of the 200,000 medicinal herbs was faster, and the strength of their spiritual energy was higher than before. Jun Changshao happily refined more than 30,000 qi gathering pills to replenish the pills in the pill pavilion, allowing the disciples to have sufficient martial arts resources. What was even more satisfying was that, as the 2nd batch of medicinal herbs matured, the spiritual energy they released filled the mountain top, and it was even more spiritual. Elder Wei led the members of the medicinal hall and continued to plant the 3rd batch of seeds. As long as the money was in place, the Iron Bone Mountain would naturally be slowly transformed into a treasure land filled with spiritual energy. Hoo. In the room, after a night of cultivation, the spiritual energy in Jun Changxiao's Dantian cyclone had reached its peak and was constantly transforming. His entire body was releasing a thick heaven and earth attribute. An hour later, the spiritual energy began to converge and return to the body. Jun Changshao exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and gradually opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed past. This meant that his realm had already entered the 8th stage from the 7th stage. Because of the magical tendon changing Jing and pills, it took less than 2 months. It could be said that it was quite fast. Bang! He punched the testing machine and displayed a strength of 110,000 Jin. TSK Tisk. The system sighed, the host's current strength is already ahead of even the most outstanding genius. It is completely comparable to an ordinary 2nd stage Wuzong. Jun Changshao said with dissatisfaction, according to the current improvement, even if I reach the peak of martial master, I won't be able to use my own strength to control the green dragon crescent blade. The system said, after breaking through Wuzong, your strength will increase greatly. At that time, the host will not need to borrow the help increase talisman and will be able to use it steadily. Yes. After breaking through, Jun Changshao continued to cultivate. In the end, he sadly realized that it would take at least 4 to 5 months to become a 9th grade martial master. There were only 4 months left before he went to challenge the Sacred Spring Sect. There was no hope for him to break through to the peak of martial master. Unless, Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, use spirit stones. Although the high multiplier Qi gathering pill could increase the speed of the spiritual energy gathered in the spirit stones was purer, so it would definitely be faster to absorb it. Usually, sect leader Jun was reluctant to use it. After all, one pill was 10,000 taels, which was simply burning money. Before challenging the Sacred Spring sect, he could only rely on spirit stones to break through to the peak of martial master. Chapter 275. In the month that Jun Changshao had been cultivating seriously, Yi Xingchen had successfully advanced from a peak martial disciple to a martial master. His spirit root and resources were on par with Li Qingyang and the others. He was able to catch up because of his previous life's martial Dao experience and because he had cultivated the Taixuan Sutra. Speaking of which, Li Qingyang and the others did not have rich martial Dao experience, nor did they have a cultivation method above the divine grade. They were able to catch up with Night Emperor and not be left far behind. This showed how powerful the martial Dao resources that Jun Changshao had provided for his disciples were. This was the Iron Bone clan. With the system's resources, as long as one's aptitude was not too bad and was willing to work hard, they could also quickly become stronger. As a reincarnated martial emperor, Yi Xingchen was a proper main character template. Being in the sect, his monstrous aura seemed to have weakened a lot. No. He was still very strong. This kind of strength would become more and more obvious with the various resources and the Taixuan Sutra. As for Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others, they would not be discouraged by being one step behind their junior brother. They continued to cultivate diligently. A few more days passed. They had successively transformed their spirit energy and successfully advanced from a martial disciple to a martial master, opening a new chapter of martial Dao. Sect Master. One day, Li Qingyang said, Junior brother Li has also broken through to a martial master. Among the inner disciples, only junior brother Tian is still a peak martial disciple. This was because his aptitude was high grade. Because of the fucking purchase restriction, Jun Changshao could only rely on the hidden rewards from completing missions if he wanted to obtain the supreme grade aptitude transformation liquid. No rush, no rush. Tian Qi would transform into a supreme grade spirit root sooner or later. As for the cold eldest senior sister, she would definitely have entered the martial master realm long ago. In this way, there were already 7 martial master disciples in the Iron Bone clan. This kind of strength was comparable to a 6th-rate sect. This was not enough. They had to become stronger. There were only 4 months left to challenge the Sacred Spring sect. Jun Changshao distributed 50 spirit stones to each inner disciple, hoping to increase their rank as soon as possible. With sufficient spirit stones to absorb, how could the disciples of the other sects compete? Sect Master Jun, don't go too far. As the date of Iron Bone's challenge to the Sacred Spring sect approached, the cultivators of the Azure Sun County would often discuss it. Although Iron Bone had done a lot of things during this period of time, most people were still not optimistic. After all, they were challenging a 5th-rate sect. This kind of large sect that had both resources and heritage was definitely not something that a new sect could contend with. While most people were not optimistic about it, City Lord Xie thought that it was possible. After all, after witnessing the sect certification, he understood that many disciples of Iron Bone had the ability to fight above their level. Sect Master Jun, City Lord Xie said, go challenge the Sacred Spring sect. This Xie will represent Green Sun City's 3,600,000 citizens to go to the Sacred Spring Mountain to cheer for you. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes at him and said, so, this is the reason why you came to my Iron Bone today. The two of them were currently sitting in the Iron Bone cafeteria. There were 8 dishes on the table and a jar of fine wine. City Lord Xie smiled and said, Sect Master Jun is serving the dishes, this Xie is serving the wine. How can this be a freeloader? As he spoke, he raised his chopsticks and ate with a blissful expression. Lu Wancher's culinary skills were too good. After eating it once, he felt like he was chewing wax when he returned to the Azure Sun City. Jun Changshao could still afford a meal, so he drank with City Lord Xie to his heart's content. During this time, they talked about the interesting stories of the pugilistic world. After 3 rounds of wine, Xie Guanquan sighed and a worried expression appeared on his face. City Lord Xie, why are you sighing? Jun Changshao asked. Xie Guanquan drank a mouthful of wine and said, this Xie received news that a few strong counties in southwest Yangzhou are actively recruiting soldiers and buying horses. I'm afraid that there will be a war soon. Jun Changshao said, war without a country. Every county in southwest Yangzhou is equivalent to a country. They often wage war for resources. This is a game played by the strong counties. Why is City Lord Xie worried? This Xie is afraid that some strong counties will expand their territory and devour our small Azure Sun County. Jun Changshao was silent. The 9th-tier Azure Sun County was the weakest county in southwest Yangzhou. If a strong county wanted to expand their territory, they would definitely be the first target. Xie Guanquan said, thousands of years ago, there were more than 500 counties in southwest Yangzhou. Today, there are only 200 left. Then the 300 counties were destroyed? Jun Changshao asked. That's right. Xie Guanquan drank a mouthful of wine as the worry on his face deepened. Our Azure Sun County was able to survive the war because of its remote location. However, we will be destroyed sooner or later if we continue to live under the influence of so many experts. Moreover, he paused for a moment and said, the 6th-tier True Sun County's county governor is very ambitious and is not far from our county. Once he starts a war, not to mention Azure Sun County, even the 8th-tier True Sun County will be destroyed. Jun Changshao drank a cup of wine and said, I thought that the world was peaceful. I didn't expect our Azure Sun County to be in such a dangerous situation. Thank you, Mayor. He put down his cup and said seriously, I, Iron Bone, am a citizen of Azure Sun City. If a war breaks out, I will fight for my home. Swoosh! Xie Guanquan stood up and raised his cup. I salute Sect Master Jun on behalf of the 3.6 million citizens of Azure Sun City. Jun Changshao stood up with his cup of wine and said, it's a little too grand. After drinking the wine, he sat down. Oh right. He asked curiously, Mayor Xie, who is the county governor of Azure Sun County? The mayor was only in charge of the city's affairs. The county governor controlled the entire county and was the mayor's direct superior. Not to mention Jun Changshao who transmigrated, even the locals of Azure Sun County didn't know much about the county governor. They had even forgotten that there was such a boss. Sigh. Xie Guanquan said helplessly, the county governor of Azure Sun County is very secretive. I have only seen him twice in the past few decades since I took over as the mayor. So secretive? Jun Changshao was stunned. Xie Guanquan shook his head and said, he is so secretive that he hasn't asked about the county's affairs in the past few decades. However, he paused and said seriously, the county governor is very strong. He defeated the county governor of a grade 8 county in the county competition a few decades ago. Is that so? Jun Changshao asked curiously, what is the name of our county governor? How old is he? What is his realm? Xie Guanquan said, the county governor is called Yunhe. He is about 30 to 40 years old. Based on the fact that he defeated the county governor of a grade 8 county, he is at least a grade 8 Wuzong. Yunhe. This name was enough to be a wild crane. As for the grade 8 Wuzong, it surprised Jun Changshao. An expert of this level could be an elder of a 5th-rate sect. Do you have a specific appearance? Such a mysterious county governor piqued Jun Changshao's interest. He wanted to know more about him. County Governor Yun likes to wear a blue robe and never leaves his wine gourd. He doesn't look old, but he has a head of white hair, Xia Guangquan said. He has quite a personality. Jun Changshaoan noted it down and said, if there is a chance, I hope to meet this wild county governor. It's a little difficult. Xie Guangquan said, County Governor Yun comes and goes like a shadow. No one knows if he is in the county now or if he has gone to other counties for sightseeing. As the county governor of a county, he doesn't care about anything and doesn't ask about anything. How enviable. Jun Changshao also wanted to be a hands-off boss and leave the matters to Li Qingyang and the others. He wanted to travel around the falling star continent. However, with the main mission, he could only do his best to develop. Wild Crane. Travel the world. This kind of happy life could only be experienced when the sect became the strongest sect. Come, let's drink. P.S. New week, come, recommendation tickets, monthly tickets. Chapter 276. After drinking with City Lord Xia, Jun Changshao understood that although the world seemed peaceful, there were undercurrents. If a war were to break out in southwest Yangzhou, there was a possibility that Azure Sun County would be destroyed. When the nest was overturned, how could there be an unbroken egg? Iron Bone was in Azure Sun City. Once the flames of war spread, it would definitely be affected. Thus, helping City Lord Xia was also helping himself. We still need time. Jun Changshao said. The sect was still in its infancy. If a war broke out in other counties and attacked Azure Sun County, it would definitely be difficult to organize forces to resist. As long as they had enough time, they would have the strength to protect themselves. How long would it take? Naturally, the longer, the better. Of course. Jun Changshao also didn't want to be some savior. If a war really came, he would only protect Azure Sun City where the sect was located. As for the other cities, for the sake of the AI clan, if he had the ability, he would naturally do his best to help. If he really couldn't, he could only focus on defense. Sect leader Jun didn't have the ambition to conquer the world. That was something for the emperor to do. As a sect leader, how could he overstep his authority? Hall Masterly, in the main hall, Jun Changshao said, order the members of Drizzle Hall to buy a large amount of ores in each city. War didn't only rely on people, but also on equipment. Regardless of whether they could use it to refine, it was definitely not wrong to buy it first. Li Luoqiu said, war is about economics. It won't start immediately. Sect leader is thinking too much. Be prepared for danger in times of peace. Jun Changshao said. All right. Li Luoqiu rubbed her jade hands and said, you have to pay. Jun Changshao threw a few interspatial rings over. Li Luoqiu counted them and found that there was a total of 50 million taels. Thus, she was a little confused and asked, how much does sect leader plan to buy? Jun Changshao handed over cold-edged sword and other materials that could be refined. He said, buy according to the ores here first. If there aren't any, then buy other ores. N. Li Luoqiu summoned Viper and the others and distributed the banknotes. She ordered them to go to the 8 cities in Qinyang City as fast as possible to purchase the items. The members of the Drizzle Hall who had learned the cloud treading steps were very efficient in their work. In just 2 or 3 days, they were able to purchase the items one after another. The cold-edged sword, overlord spear, and unyielding iron shield had all been replenished. He had also purchased a lot of other ores of different quality. As for the 50 million taels, it was naturally all spent. Since Jun Changshao wanted to prepare for a rainy day, he naturally wouldn't be stingy with money. While cultivating, he opened the forging pavilion and began to forge weapons and equipment. After a round of inventory, he had refined over 200 cold-edged swords and over 300 overlord spears. Because he had obtained a large amount of iron ore from the Shao family, he had refined over 700 unyielding iron shields. Even so, it was impossible to equip 1,000 disciples with weapons and shields. The ambitious governor knew when the war would start. Therefore, after forging a lot of equipment and hoarding ores, Jun Changshao continued to cultivate. During this period, he had been taking qi-gathering pills and absorbing spirit stones. The speed of his spiritual energy accumulation could be said to be quite fast. In just 1.5 months, he had broken through from 8th grade to 9th grade martial master. There was a high improvement, but there was also a high cost. In 40 days, sect leader Jun had absorbed 450 spirit cores. On average, he used 10 spirit cores a day. Not counting qi-gathering pills, just spirit stones. This guy had to spend 100,000 taels a day. He was really burning money. With his cultivation, even the patriarch of a 4th or 5th grade sect might not be able to afford it. The inner court disciples also cultivated with qi-gathering pills and spirit stones. Their cultivation had increased significantly. Yi Xingchen had become a 4th grade martial master. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had become 3rd grade martial masters. Tian Qi, who had a high-grade spiritual root, broke through to martial master one step later. Although he had spirit stones, he had just become a 2nd grade martial master. At this time, there were less than 3 months left before the challenge to the Sacred Spring Sect. If there were enough spirit stones, it wouldn't be difficult to reach 5th grade martial master on average. But, there was no more. On the other hand, qi-gathering pills had been harvested and planted by Elder Wei and the others. It had formed a virtuous cycle and they were self-sufficient. Although the high multiplier qi-gathering pills were good, as one's cultivation increased, taking them all the time would take up a lot of time. It was already very good. If the martial artists of the outside world knew that the Iron Bone inner court disciples were replenished with 10 to 15 times the normal amount of qi-gathering pills, they would definitely vomit blood in envy. Jun Changshao made up his mind and personally went down the mountain to Qingyang City. He spent 20 million to buy 2,000 spirit stones for himself and his disciples to cultivate and prepare for the challenge to the Sacred Spring Sect. The 100 million sent by clan head AI was spent on seeds, ores, and so many spirit stones. There wasn't much left. There was already a huge gap between them and the sects with deep foundations. If he didn't rely on the system and large amounts of money, how could he overtake them? During this period of cultivation, the sect held a small sect competition once every 3 months and a monthly strength test. Even if he used the great art of spring and autumn to speed up the process of time, this kind of thing still had to be done. It didn't mean that it didn't happen just because it wasn't written. Similarly, clan head AI would send resources to the sect and the medicine hall would harvest and replant the herbs. 2 months later. There were only 10 days left before the challenge to the Sacred Spring Sect. The discussions in the outside world became more and more intense. Many martial artists were constantly paying attention to the latest news. For example, had Iron Bone set off yet? The people of the 100 Sect Alliance had even placed spies at the foot of the mountain. As long as Jun Changshao set off with his disciples, they would immediately head to the Sacred Spring Sect. Cheer for Iron Bone. Impossible. They had to go and watch the joke. They had to ridicule them like brainless villains to forcefully show off their existence. The reason why they didn't set off in advance and even sent spies was because they were afraid that Iron Bone would back out and abandon the challenge. The 100 Sect Alliance's intention was very simple. Since they had issued a challenge to the Sacred Spring Sect, they had to fight like men. They couldn't back down. In Azure Sun City, City Lord Xie had already started to arrange matters to free up enough time to cheer for Iron Bone. In this aspect, Clan AI performed better. They didn't even hesitate to postpone the challenge because it was close to the auction. When all the other forces didn't have high hopes for Iron Bone, City Lord Xie and Clan AI were still able to stand firm. This was a true sign of a friend in need. The day of the challenge approached. The originally peaceful Azure Sun County became lively. The other forces in the other counties also started to move. An 8th-rate sect challenging a 5th-rate sect was unprecedented. Naturally, they had to go to the Sacred Springs sect to watch the show. Miaohua Palace was filled with spiritual energy. Shi Jingxian sat in a picturesque pavilion and said, "Sect head Jun is going to challenge the Sacred Springs sect soon. 10 more days." Lear muttered in her heart. It had been more than half a year since the auction. Why was Palace Master still thinking about Ironbone? Prepare, prepare. Shi Jingxian said, "Go to the Sacred Springs sect." Yes. Junior Sister Murong. On a county's official road, a woman in a tight outfit said, "I heard that an unrated sect is going to challenge a 5th-rate sect. Do you want to go and watch the show?" She was pretty, but compared to the junior sister walking in front of her, she was obviously inferior. The woman walking in front of her was about 16 or 17 years old. She was dressed in blue, had snow-white skin, a slender figure, an oval-shaped face, and willowy eyebrows. She exuded a noble aura. This was Xiao Ziji's ex-fiancée, Morong Xian. The cultivators on the road seemed to know that the two were disciples of the Lily Holy Sect. They all avoided them with fear in their eyes. An unrated sect? Morong Xian said. The senior sister said, "I think it's called Iron something sect." "Oh, right, it's the trash who had a marriage agreement with you. Ironbone Upright Sect." Morong Xian was silent for a moment and said, "The training is over. There's still plenty of time. Why don't we go and take a look?" Junior sister. The senior sister said with a smile, "You've already broken through to 9th grade martial master. You're the fastest among the new disciples. You'll definitely get a good result in the upcoming sect competition. It's all because of Elder's good teaching." Morong Xian said humbly. The senior sister said, "How can that trash from the Azure Sun County be worthy of a genius like you?" It was a wise decision to break the engagement. Morong Xian frowned and said, "Senior sister, can we not talk about him? P.S. Please recommend me, monthly vote, and thank you for your tips." Chapter 277. There were only 10 days left before the challenge to the Holy Spring sect. It wasn't short, but it wasn't long either. In these few days, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stopped cultivating and began to adjust their states to better prepare for the upcoming battle. Then, what were their current realms? Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaoma, and Li Fei had already broken through to the 5th grade. Tian Qi was a 4th-grade martial master and was only one step away from the 5th grade. Yi Xingqian, who cultivated the Taishan Sutra, was still ahead of them and had already broken through to the 6th grade. It wasn't just the inner disciples. Some outer disciples with good aptitudes had also broken through to the peak of the martial disciple realm in these few months. Long Xiang and Yang Yuhua were the first to enter the martial master realm. Because they weren't inner disciples, they only had access to qi gathering pills, so they had just entered the 1st grade. Other than Yao Menjing, who didn't cultivate, all the new disciples had broken through to the martial disciple realm and were all above the 2nd grade. Because of the body-shaping pills and the shaping room, they were far stronger than martial artists of the same level. If the two elders of the certification hall were to come again, they would definitely be deeply shocked. Of course. Ironbone disciples didn't cultivate foolishly. They would also put their minds on comprehending cultivation techniques, so that martial arts and martial arts could progress together. Li Luoqiu had also entered the 7th grade from the 6th grade. This woman had always been focused on hidden weapons and movement techniques, so her realm didn't increase too quickly. Viper and Lynx had entered the 4th grade. They were previously gold medal assassins and relied on the Sect's resources to enter the martial master realm from the martial disciple realm. After Li Qingyang's inventory, there were already more than 20 disciples who had reached the martial master realm. They had already met the 10 martial masters requirement to be promoted to a 6th-rate sect. Now, Ironbone only lacked the sect leader to enter Wuzong. With another 510 disciples at the 12th stage of the channel opening realm, they could be promoted to the 6th rate. The sect still had 1,000 spots for disciples. They just needed to recruit them. If Jun Changshao couldn't break through to Wuzong, even if all the disciples met the requirements, it wouldn't be enough. Someone would ask. Couldn't the sect leader's strength be comparable to Wuzong? No. The certification center first looked at one's realm, then one's strength. He couldn't do without either of them. From the looks of it, it would take some time for Ironbone to reach the 6th grade. According to the previous pace, as long as Jun Changshao reached the end of a certain realm, he would receive an epic quest. If he couldn't complete the mission, his realm would always be stuck. Boom! Inside the training room, Su Xiaomao kicked the testing machine. The strength displayed was 80,000 jin. Su Xiaomao grinned. To be able to display such strength at the level of a 5th-grade martial master, only a top genius would be able to do so. Under normal circumstances, the first requirement for a top genius was to have a saint grade or divine grade spiritual root. Although Su Xiaomao only had a supreme grade spirit root, with the tempering of the body shaping elixir and the training tower, he had made up for the difference in his spirit root. He was already on par with the top geniuses. An ordinary person with ordinary talent who was destined to be mediocre would become a top genius a year later. This was Jun Changxiao's teaching. It was still not enough. His target was: let the disciple become a proud son of heaven, an existence revered by all. The admiration of all living beings. That's right, he had stepped into the martial emperor realm. Boom! Xiao Ziji punched the testing machine. The strength displayed was 83,000 jin. Su Xiaomao, who was originally a little proud, grabbed his hair and broke down. At the same level, junior brother Xiao is actually 3,000 jin stronger than me. Xiao Ziji smiled. Senior brother Su, in terms of speed, I am far behind you. Su Xiaomao immediately felt balanced. Li Qingyang walked over and said, junior brother Zhao's physical strength is also not comparable to ours. Su Xiaomao, who had just found her balance, immediately leaned against the wall with tears in her eyes when she heard what second senior brother said. Boom! Li Qingyang punched the testing machine. The strength displayed was 85,000 jin. His strength was 2,000 jin higher than Xiao Ziji's because the former had not opened his meridians and was leading when he focused on cultivating his physical body. Boom! Boom! Tian Qi and Li Fei tested one after another. The strength displayed was 60,000 jin and 78,000 jin respectively. With the same amount of resources and hard work, the difference in strength between people of the same level would not be too big. Tian Qi's strength was only 60,000 jin. Firstly, he was only a grade 4 martial master. Secondly, he had a high-grade spirit root. Su Xiaomao and Li Fei focused on body techniques. Although their strength was slightly weaker, they had their own specialties. Xiao Ziji focused on body tempering. When facing a grade 5 fire dragon, even if he could not completely withstand it, it should not be a problem for him to fight a few rounds. Junior brother Yi, come and try too, Li Qingyang said. Humph, Yi Xingqian walked over. He gathered spiritual energy in his fist and punched the testing machine. It was obvious that his strength was 90,000 jin. Oh my god, junior brother Yi is so powerful. He entered the sect later than us, but his strength is actually 5,000 jin higher than second senior brothers. Junior brother, how did you do it? Su Xiaomao and Li Fei exclaimed. Yi Xingqian did not speak. He said helplessly in his heart, I have the Taixuan Sutra and am a grade 6 martial master. Yet, I am only 5,000 jin higher than Li Qingyang. Of course. Jun Changshao had given them so many resources. If Night Emperor could leave them far behind, wouldn't it prove that everything provided by the system could not compare to the reincarnation of a martial emperor? Actually, Yi Xingqian was wrong. He should not be thinking about how much stronger he was compared to Li Qingyang and the others. Instead, he should be thinking about how big the gap was between him and the grade 6 martial master of his previous life. Very big. Although he had a divine grade spirit root in his previous life, he had to work hard for all the resources. He took 3 years to become a grade 6 martial master and his strength was only about 70,000. In this life, he took a year to reach grade 6 and his strength was 20,000 gene higher. What was the reason? Although the Taixuan Sutra played a part, it only accounted for 20%. The 80% was due to the various martial arts resources provided by Jun Changshao. Huff huff. In the study, strong spiritual energy whizzed out of Jun Changshao's body. It lasted for about an hour before it began to converge. Shwa. He opened his eyes and 2 rays of light flashed. At this point, he had stepped into the peak of martial master from grade 9 martial master. In 2 months, he had stepped into the peak of martial master from grade 9 martial master. This meant that as long as he had enough resources, it was not difficult to break through quickly. Ding! Host has stepped into the peak of martial master. Requirement met. Epic mission activated. Sure enough, it came again. Jun Changshao opened the data panel. Under the Sect mission appeared an epic mission. The content was lead disciples to challenge the Sacred Spring Sect, incomplete. This mission was actually related to the Sacred Spring Sect. He clicked on the details. Epic Mission, 3. Mission details, Host, please lead disciples to the Sacred Spring Mountain within a month and challenge the 5th-rate Sacred Spring Sect. Mission requirements, disciple must defeat 0/3 of the Sacred Spring Sect's direct disciples, 0/10 of the Sacred Spring Sect's inner disciples, and 0/30 of the Sacred Spring Sect's outer disciples. Mission failure, did not go to the Sacred Spring Sect within the time limit. Could not defeat the Sacred Spring Sect's disciples during the mission period. Mission reward? It seems quite simple, Jun Changshao said. The big boss of the second epic mission was a grade 5 fire dragon. No matter how powerful the Sacred Spring Sect's direct disciples were, could they be stronger than a grade 5 Wuzong beast? The system said, the host defeated the fire dragon with the help of hard-to-stop saber. Disciple was almost wiped out by it. Jun Changshao was silent. P.S. 5 chapters. Requesting recommendation votes, requesting monthly votes. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.